But, is everybody here? Are we all ready to go once more into the breach? Once more into hell? And listen to Dante talk all about how Virgil loves him so much. Yeah, like, I am a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. I've read every single story. My compendium of Sherlock Holmes book is, like, falling apart because I loved it so much. I sewed the spine back together. But still, he is an ass. It's Hate's birthday. Oh, I was gonna wish I birth everything a happy Hate Day. I guess she's out and about. But we can wish her a happy birthday from here. Happy birthday, Hate! Yeah! Sadly not pizza, it's Italian. Okay, so it is thematically, and I have pepperoni on my delicious bagel pizza wish. So, we are all appropriately in the mood. Can you hear me okay? Over my spooky music? I want to make sure the music is not too spooky. Or it's spooky at a appropriate volume. Okay, so when we last left Dante, it was at the end. It was at the end of Canto 19, and Dante had just finished elaborately describing, you know, his super beautiful romance moment with Virgil, where he had been yelling at the Pope stuck in the Pope hole at the bottom of one of the trenches. In the Malabulge, feet down, head first into a baptismal font hole, and said, "Therefore, with both his arms he took me up, and when he had me all upon his breast, remounted by the way where he descended, nor did he tire to have me clasp to him, but bore me to the summit of the arch, which is from the fourth dyke to the fifthest passage. There tenderly he laid his burden down, tenderly on the crag uneven and steep that would have been hard passage for goats. Thence was unveiled to me another valley." So he's like, so after I was done yelling at the Pope, Virgil picked me up really carefully and bridle carried me up the dike, which, like, he didn't really need to do, because, like, if he can walk it, I can walk it. And he was so strong that, like, he didn't even get tired carrying me, like, all the way up. And then right when he was up this top, he tenderly laid me down upon the harsh rocks like a princess. And at this point, like, if I were Virgil, I'd be coming back from the grave to give him major side-eye. Like, dude, seriously? just don't. I just know there were, like, other contemporary poets who read this of Dante, and they're like, ew, what am I reading? Like, okay, I get it. He's your hero. He's everybody's hero. He's Virgil the poet, okay? Super rock star famous, but jeez, man. Tone it down. Like, nobody wants to read your creepy fan fiction. And clearly a reward his strong olive arms. He doesn't even have muscles. They're just made of olive oil now. Yeah, clearly a reward for good behavior. Yeah, because Virgil was so happy that he was yelling blasphemies at the Pope, like he was so mad at him, and he was smiling. And he's like, yes, very good. I shall carry you in my strong embrace up the dike as reward, you creep. And so, we come to Enlightenment era cringe. Yeah. Like, I really wish that I knew the old-timey speak of Dante's companions for what am I looking at? Do mine eyes deceive me? Once again, Dante has tricked me into reading his erotica fanfiction about Virgil. Damn it, Dante! I'm just glad that in 900 years, children won't have to read this in school. Can you imagine? I really want somebody somewhere to be, like, writing, like, their Lord of the Rings, like, self-insert erotic fanfiction, and then in 900 years somebody has to read it in English class like it's really, really smart. Cringe, but in enlightenment. Enlightened cringe. Yeah, it's like, I feel smarter for having read this, but I feel worse! Oh, yeah, anyways, back into it. Let me get a drink here. My throat does feel better. I was drinking, like, honeyed tea like a madwoman last night after I finished. But, still not as good as it could be, but it's better. It doesn't hurt, anyways. Oh, look what I have on my desk. The Lifing Beautifully bird. You know what kills me is this is a ladybug, but now I refer to it as the bird. Like, I was looking for it the other day because I was thinking at that photo shoot tomorrow, I was like, oh, you know, we're going to Elk Ridge Park where all those, like, fields of bluebells grow, and they're really beautiful, and if they're blooming, I should bring my Sweetina so I can finally get some really nice pictures of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should bring the Lifing Beautifully bird. And, like, put a little elastic on his tummy so I can put him on my finger and hold him like she does in the comic. And I was like, where's that bird? Where is that bird? And only after thinking about it for so long, I was like, I'm referring to it as a bird when I know it's not a bird. So, this thing has more dignity and gravitas than Dante right now. He's like, I would never write a creepy love poem about Virgil. So, I guess they're gonna go pick out China now once they get out of hell. Anyways, Canto 20. Sorry. Right when I said I felt better, my throat started feeling worse again. Of a new pain behoves me to make verses and give material to the 20th canto of the first song, which is of these submerged. So he's like, alright, so here comes some more terrible things. You're falling into Sweet Tina's narrative. I like to think it's our narrative, because we call it the Lifing Beautifully bird, not the Lifing Beautifully ladybug. Look, this thing identifies as a bird. You can tell it wants to be a bird. That's how it identifies. That's how I'm going to call it. I don't want to be rude. I would never deny this bird its right to be called a bird. And its goofy googly eyes. You can compromise and call it a ladybird? I kept trying to do that, but then I just kept saying, where's that bird? I was already thoroughly disposed to peer down into the uncovered depth which bathed itself in tears of agony, and people saw I through the circular valley, silent and weeping, coming at the pace in which this world the litanies assume. So he's like, so by this time I was kind of used to looking down on people's pain, so I didn't even hesitate. So I looked into this new ditch, which is the 5th ditch in the Malabulge. Were those eyes glued on consensually? You know, I have no idea. You'd have to ask. It's a very private conversation I can't have with this bird. And people saw I through the... Okay, yeah, so he's like, so people came through, you know, walking through the ditch of the Malabulge, the 5th one, and, you know, they're all walking in a line, and he's like, they kind of look like, you know, like monks all walking together, because they're all walking really slow. They're crying, but they're walking really slow and filed, and, you know, like almost like they have a dignified kind of walk to them. As lower down my sight descended on them, wondrously each one seemed to be distorted from chin. Oh, wait, no, hang on. We already read this one. I'm sorry. We did, that's right, we did Canto 20. I'm mixing it up with the next canto. Because they're doing the same thing. I'm an ass. Wait, hang on, this is the right canto, isn't it? Yeah, this is where we read the one where they had their heads put on backwards, you know? Oh, that's right. We stopped mid-canto, I think. Like an idiot. I'm sorry. So, this was the 5th disc, which was everybody who was like a soothsayer or a prophesizer. And, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Look, it's hard to keep it straight. I think I got confused because I stopped mid-canto. Oh, no, I stopped at Canto 21. I'm a jerk. Like, these kind of run together after a while. Because I've read this a lot, so I get confused as to what we did. I fell asleep before the end of the stream. Aw, poor Gonzo. Well, okay, the 5th ditch in the Malabranch was for... the Malabulge, I'm getting ahead of myself, was for people who had their heads put on backwards as punishment for trying to see the future. Which is funny because Dante is like, you know, it's against nature to try and prophesize and see the future, so see these, heathens and Greek, you know... soothsayers, you know, like Manto and all these other people who tried to see the future and divine the future. They are, you know, these false prophets, and, you know, and he's like, oh, you know, people who try to prophesize, they are bad. But funnily enough, he doesn't mention any prophets from the Old Testament as being there, and has no punishment, you know, laid out for them. So he's like, it's against Christianity, except for those Christian prophets. But I'm not going to mention those, and they're not here. So, Kyashine, what's up? Ooh, we got a pony raid. What's up, dude? We are reading through Dante's Inferno, the greatest, stupidest fan fiction you've ever heard in your entire life. We love Dante's Inferno. What I'm doing is I'm translating from the, like, flowery, straight translation of the Italian to, like, you know, common plain speak. We're enjoying Dante going on and on and on about how his, like, superhero from the past, Virgil the famous poet, like, totally loves him, and he's then they're BFFs, and he took him on a tour through hell where every one of Dante's enemies is burning horribly, and Virgil's got beautiful strong arms and carries him about. And also the girl that Dante is in love with, who he totally spoke more than 2 words to once, you know, totally, like, she really knew who he was, and she's in heaven, and she misses him and loves him so much. It's like the worst fan fiction in the world, but hilariously, everybody has to learn it in school. And so I was just saying, I hope in 900 years somebody, like, has to read a terrible fan fiction that's like a self-insert Lord of the Rings, where, like, somebody romances, like, 2 different characters at once, and somebody in some, like, future English class has to sit through this and is like, oh, I hate this stuffed shirt literature. So now we're on Canto 21, and we're in the 6th ditch of the Malabulge. From bridge to bridge, thus speaking other things of which my comedy cares not to sing, we came along and held the summit, when we halted to behold another fissure of Malabulge and other vain laments, and I beheld it marvelously dark. I did not have to learn this in school. I know, now you get to be entertained with cosplay and Twitch, and this counts as homework. And so he says, okay, so we were just chatting about some other stuff, it's not important, and we came along to the next ditch, and we looked inside, and it was really, really dark. And, like, really dark. And as in the arsenal of the Venetians boils in the winter the tenacious pitch to smear the unsound vessels over again, for sail they cannot, and instead thereof one makes his vessel new, and one recalks the ribs of that which many a voyage has made, one hammers at the prow, one at the stern, this makes one oars, and that one cordage twists, another mends the mainsail in the mizzen, thus not by fire but by the art divine was boiling down below there a dense pitch which upon every side the bank belimed. So he's like, so the entire ditch of the 6th ditch of the Malabulge was full of boiling black pitch, and then he goes into a talk about, like, you know, like the kind you put on boats, because they would, you know, they would smear pitch all over the boats to make them watertight and seaworthy. And he's like, but nobody human made this pitch. It was made, you know, in the Malabulge by magic, and it was boiling down at the bottom of the ditch and kind of like sloshing on the sides of the ditch and sticking to it. Pitch, of course, is like tar, you know, like black, thick, boiling tar. It's awful. It's the stuff that they used to, you know, dump down on people when they were, like, invading medieval castles, because not only is it boiling hot, it's impossible to get off you. It's like putting burning chocolate on you. It sticks to you like napalm. It's insanely painful, because you can't, you know, you can't just brush it off you. It won't come off, and it burns and burns and burns. So it's a nasty stuff. And, I saw it, but I did not see within it aught but the bubbles that the boiling raised and all swell up and resubside compressed. He's like, I didn't see anybody in the pitch. I just saw, like, a bunch of bubbles boiling up, you know, like, every so often. Medieval napalm! Yeah, that's basically what it was. It was terrible, you know? It's like if you got covered in hot road tar, you know? It would just continue burning and burning you, and you would not be able to scrape it off. The while below there I fixedly gazed, my leader crying out, beware, beware, drew me unto himself from where I stood. He's like, so I was staring down at this crap, and then suddenly Virgil's like, yo, look out! And, like, grabs me back and holds me to him. Then I turned around, and as one who is impatient to see what it behoves him to escape, and whom a sudden terror doth unman, who while he looks delays not his departure, and I beheld behind us a black devil running along the crag approach. And he's like, so I kind of, like, ran like he told me to, like he just grabbed me and ran, and I ran too, but I also looked behind me and there was like a big scary devil, and he was spooky and he was chasing us. Ah, how ferocious was he in his aspect, and how he seemed to me in action ruthless, with open wings and light upon his feet. And he's like, that guy was super scary. Here he comes, he's gonna kick our ass. And I love these guys. These guys are the greatest. This is like the like buffoonery and comedy of Dante's Inferno coming up. Just in case, you know, you needed like a comedy section to keep the kids entertained while they're listening to this. Who knows? His shoulder, oh, it's like, yeah, open wings and light upon his feet. So he had wings, and he had fire in his feet. His shoulders, which sharp-pointed were and high, a sinner did encumber with both haunches, and he held clutched the sinews of the feet. And he's got one sinner, like, he's got one damned person over each shoulder, and he's just holding him by the feet, like he's got turkeys slung over each shoulder. From off our bridge he said, O Malabranche, behold one of the elders of St. Zita, plunge him beneath, for I return with others unto that town which is well furnished with them. All there are barrators except Bonturo. No into yes for money there is exchanged. He's like, hey guys, I got another person for us to make suffer. They're from this one town where I swear to God, everybody is a jerk. Like, everybody is a thief, or, you know, a liar or whatever. And, you know, everybody I have is a barrator, like a lawyer, except for Bonturo. I've got him, but he's not a lawyer. And he says, no into yes for money there is exchanged. And this is the what he's talking about is that this is the ditch of graft. People who took graft, you know, like they're on the take. So they corrupt politicians or whatever. And so no into yes for money is exchanged. He's like, so, no, I can't build that road there instead of here, you stupid developers. Oh yeah, well how about $10,000? Yes, I can. You know, it's like people who took bribes, graft, whatever. He hurled him down and over the hard crag turned round, and never was a mastiff loosened in so much hurry to pursue a thief. And so he's just like, yeah, he just kind of chucked him down like, oh, not enough time in the day to go devil. You know, I got so much to do. I got so many people to punish. The other sank and rose again face downward, but the demons under cover of the bridge cried, here the Santo Volto has no place. Here swims one otherwise than in the Certio. Therefore, if for our gaffs thou wishest not, do not uplift thyself above the pitch. So, under the bridge are a bunch of his demon friends, and they're like, okay, if you know what's good for you, you get under that boiling pitch, and I better not see hide nor hair of you. I don't want to see your nose sticking out, not a toe, not nothing. Or else you're gonna get it in the butt with one of our tridents. We are gonna stick you with our forks, as they say. They say forks, but it's like a trident. They sometimes call them grapnels or hooks, but they mostly mean a three-pronged trident. As thou may have seen in, you know, modern times, the devil with a pitchfork kind of thing. They seized him there with more than 100 rakes. They also refer to them as rakes. They said, it here behooves thee to dance covered, that if thou canst, thou secretly mayest pilfer. And so they're like, yeah, basically just get under the pitch. Get under the pitch. You were secretive in life, you know, now you shall be secretive under the pitch. We don't want to see you sticking your nose out of it. Not otherwise the cooks their scullions make, immerse into the middle of the cauldron the meat with hooks so that it may not float. And he's like people trying to cook and like keep the meat underneath the water so that it may cook, you know, holding it down with a fork. That's basically what they were doing to this guy. Said the good master to me, that it be not apparent thou art here, crouch thyself down behind a jag that thou mayest have some screen, and for no outrage that is done to thee, be thou afraid, because these things I know, for once before I was in such a scuffle. So he's like, okay, Dante, you hide here behind a big rock. Hide here behind a big rock. I don't want you to get hurt, but don't worry about your safety, because I've seen these guys before, and, you know, I've dealt with them before. I'll handle it, all right? Virgil to the rescue. Then he passed on beyond the bridge's head, and as upon the sixth bank he arrived, need was it for him to have a steadfast front. So Virgil's gonna go talk to this group of, like, cackling, goofy demons, and he's like, okay, Virg, it's all you, buddy, it's all you. You know, he's like, okay, show him you mean business, all right? Show him, give him the business end, give him a face full of Virgil. Here we go. Virgil to the rescue, loving sigh. Yeah, seriously. But he's just like, all right, Virg, show him you need business. Don't back down, and don't look scared. Okay, okay. He's kind of psyching himself up a little. So, I'm not gonna do that. And so, he says, with the same fury and the same uproar as dogs leap out upon a mendicant, who on a sudden begs wherever he stops, they issued from beneath the little bridge, and turned against him all their grappling irons. But he cried out, be none of you malignant! Before those hooks of yours lay hold of me, let one of you step forward who may hear me, and then take counsel as to grappling me. So they're like dogs sicking themselves on a homeless man. They all jumped out with their tridents and were gonna stick him. And he was like, all right, back off. Everybody be cool. You can stick me later after one of you has talked to me. Or he's like, you're like, listen to what I have to say first. One of you come and talk to me, and then you decide whether or not it's worth sticking me with your trident forks, which I'm hoping you think no. They all cried out, let Malakota go! Whereat one started, and the rest stood still, and he came to him saying, what avails it? Malakota is the name of, like I told you before, he's the name of one of the demons, and his name means bad tail. Because they all have kind of, like, silly names that sound, when they're not translated from the Italian, they sound kind of like, you know, spooky and gothic and kind of cool. You're like, ooh, Malakota. But, obviously, in the Italian, it would have just said, like, bad tail. And I have to tell you the names of all the other ones, because they're kind of great. So, they all have, like, you know, big fancy names and everything. So, Arlecchino, just, you know, it's derived from Arlecchino, which means, like, the Harlequin. Barbarica means curly beard. Cognazo means nasty dog. Calcibrina possibly means like grace stomper, like he who stomps God's graces. You know, like the boot on God. Siriato means wild hog. Dragignaso means big nasty dragon. Farfarello means goblin. Graffiacane means dog scratcher. Libicoco might actually, or Libicoco possibly means like Libyan hothead, like a guy who's from Libya and is really mad. And Malakota means bad tail. Rubiconte might mean the red-faced terror, and is a reference, and might be a reference to Conte de Gabriele, who was the guy who condemned Dante to exile. So he's like the guy who exiled Dante. He's like kind of slamming him by giving his name to one of the demons. And Scarmiglione means troublemaker. So they all have these like really goofy names. I wonder how Dante feels about V-Man's most famous work being someone else's story. Who knows? He's probably like, well, he made it better. It's like when people hear a cover of a song by their favorite author or their favorite artist, and they're like, well, theirs made it better. And you're like, no, they didn't. They just covered it. And they're like, no, it's an improvement. Dude, he loves Virgil. He would never betray Virgil by having another opinion. And so he's talking to Malakota, the chief head among them. Thinkest thou, Malakota, to behold me advanced into this place, my master said, safe hitherto from all your skill of fence, without the will divine and fate auspicious? Let me go on, for it in heaven is willed that I another show the savage road. He's like, Malakota, think for a second. Would I be here, like, you know, totally unmolested and unharmed all the way down here if I didn't have, you know, the will of heaven behind me? Get out of my way. Like, just... like, don't make me go through this, bro. Like, I'm here because heaven said I could come down here. Obviously, I wouldn't have made it this far if that weren't the case. Then was his arrogance so humbled in him that he let his grapnel at his feet, and to the others said, now strike him not. And Malakota's like, ah, crap, he's right. Nobody beat up Virgil, he's scared. And unto me, my guide, O thou who sittest among the splinters of the bridge crouched again, securely now return to me. And so he's like, okay, you can come out now, Dante. And Dante's like, you know, comes out from behind the rock. Wherefore I started and came swiftly to him, and all the devils forward thrust themselves, so that I feared they would not keep their compact. And thus beheld I once afraid the soldiers who issued under safeguard from Caprona, seeing themselves among so many foes. Close did I press myself with all my person beside my leader, and turn not mine eyes from their countenance, which was not good. He's like, I was really scared, and I didn't trust these demons not to hurt me, even though they said they wouldn't. And I kind of like just snuggled up to Virgil as hard as I could. I was as pressed against him bodily as I could, because I was so scared. Hold me, Virgil! My God. They lowered their rakes, and wilt thou have me hit him, they said to another, on the rump, and answered, yes, see that thou nick him with it. So they were talking to among each other. They're like, should I stick him in the butt with my trident? They're like, yeah, hit him in the butt. But the same demon who was holding parley with my conductor turned to him very quickly and said, be quiet, Scarmiglione. He's like, guys, shut up. Just shut up, guys. Then said to us, you can go no farther forward on this crag, because is lying all shattered at the bottom the sixth arch. And if it still doth please you to go onward, pursue your way along upon this rock, near is another crag that yields a path. Yesterday, 5 hours later than this hour, 1,266 years were complete that here the way was broken. He's like, okay, you can't go along this part anymore because the arch over the pit is broken. But if you go along this other way and like keep going, because as I told you before, you know, it's a big circle and there are many bridges and arches that lead between the ditches in the Malibol. She's like, if you go along, you'll find another one that's complete, another intact arch. And then he says, you know, 1 day, 5 hours, 1 day, 5 hours, 1,266 years ago, this way was broken. So he's like, that's when Jesus came down during the harrowing of hell. So that's exactly how long it's been since he came down here, and, you know, in his terrifying earthquake of divine justice, it busted up this arch. I send in that direction some of mine to see if any doth err himself. Go ye with them, for they will be not vicious. He's like, I'll send some of my dudes with you, because they have to go that way anyways, and make sure that nobody's crawling out of the pit of tar, you know, and kind of like sticking their nose up above it. We don't want them doing that. So they won't hurt you. Just let them, just go with them. Let them do their business. It'll be fine. Step forward, Alakino and Calsabrina, he began to cry out, and thou, Cognazo and Barbarica, do thou guide the 10. Come forward, he's just naming all his buddies, Libicoco and Dragignazo, and Tuxeriato, and Grafiacane, and Farfarello, and Mad Rubicante. Mad Rubicante. Not only does Dante put the guy who exiled him in there as a devil in form, he calls him crazy. Search ye all around about the boiling pitch, let those be safe as far as the next crag that all unbroken passes over the dens. He's like, keep looking in the pitch to make sure everybody's under the boiling tar, don't let them stick their noses out, and take these guys safely over to the next bridge, okay? Oh me, what is it, master, that I see? Pray let us go, I said, without an escort, and if thou knowest how, since for myself I ask none, and if thou art as observant as thy wont is, dost thee not see that they do gnash their teeth and with their brows are threatening woe to us? He's like, Dante, please. Dante's like, Virgil, please, can we just go without them as a guide? Like, if you know the way, it's fine. I trust you. We don't need to go with them. You know, I don't need a guide. You know, don't go to any trouble on my behalf. Don't you see that they're like being really threatening to us, and like I think they're gonna kill us. And he to me, I will not have thee fear, let them gnash on according to their fancy, because they do it for those boiling wretches. He's like, nah, dude, they're just being scary to scare the, you know, sinners down here. Just let them do it. It's okay. Don't be afraid. And for God's sake, stop hugging my arm, Dante. Get off me. Along the left-hand dike they wheeled about, but first had each one thrust his tongue between his teeth toward their leader for a signal, and he had made a trumpet of his rump. So they're like, They made a signal and a counter signal to their leader Malakota, so they're like, we go now, and went and like stuck their tongue out between their teeth, and he's like, I see you later, and turned around and farted at them. Like this is the height of comedy at the time, I guess. Oh my god, so funny. But like, yeah, that's their signal and counter signal. Goodbye, leader. And he's just like, goodbye, fart. So yeah, like I don't know. It seems to me that the demons of the Malabulge, they have fun. they're just a bunch of fun guys, you know. Anyways, so Canto 22. I have erewhile seen horsemen move in camp, begin the storming and their muster make, and sometimes starting off for their escape. Vaunt courtiers I have seen upon your land, O Arentines. And foragers do go forth, tournament stricken, and the joustings run, sometimes with trumpets, and sometimes with bells, with kettle drums and signals of the castle, and with our own and with outlandish things, but never yet with bagpipes so uncouth did I see horsemen move, nor infantry, nor ship by any sign of land or star. So he's like, so I've seen a lot of send-offs in my time. People getting on ships, people leaving for a joust, people leaving their castle. Never saw anybody fart to dismiss their infantrymen. He calls it the bagpipe so uncouth. But he's like, never seen that before. That's interesting. That's a heck of a thing, is what that is. So he's like, that was weird. We went upon our way with the 10 demons. Ah, savage company, but in the church with saints and in the tavern with the gluttons. He's just like, the guys we went with, ugh, they were bad, but, you know, we went among them as holy people among sinners. Ever upon the ditch, or upon the pitch, was my intent, the pitch in the ditch, to see the whole condition of that Bolgia, and of the people who therein were burned. He's like, anyways, the entire time we were walking, like, all I could think about was looking down at the people who were burning in the pitch. Even as the dolphins, when they make a sign to mariners by arching of the back that they should take counsel to save their vessel, thus sometimes to alleviate his pain, one of the sinners would display his back, and in less time conceal it than it lightens. And then the page breaks again, right in the middle of a stanza. As on the brink of water in a ditch, part 3, the frogs stand only with their muzzles out so that they hide their feet and other bulk. He's like, so every so often you'd see somebody kind of like peeking out, just like peeking out of the pitch, just trying to get like relief from all the burning. And what they would do is basically just stick their backs out just a little bit, just their back, but just to go down, like, he's like, but for so little time that it seemed to me that it didn't really even help that much. You know, like, they just dart right back down into the pitch, because, you know, they're afraid of the demons that tell them to stay under. So upon every side the sinners stood, but ever as Barbarica came near them, thus underneath the boiling they withdrew. And he's like, and every time, like, the demons got close to them while we were walking along the ditch, they'd be like, oh, and they go right under the pitch again. I saw, and still my heart doth shudder at it, one waiting thus, even as it comes to pass, one frog remains and down another dives. So he's like, and one guy wasn't lucky enough to realize that we were coming, so he had still had his back kind of exposed in the pitch, like, just trying to get some relief from the boiling. He wasn't smart enough to realize we were coming. Savage. Totally. He savaged them. And he's like, oh man, that sucks. And Graphiacon, I'm gonna call him Graphia. Graphia, who most confronted him, grappled him by his tresses smeared with pitch and drew him up so that he seemed an otter. And, like, so the demon, like, reaches down and you know, he flies down, grabs him, and pulls him up by his hair. And he's like, he looked like an otter, because he was all, like, smeared black and wet with pitch, so he was, like, a dark color, and he was all slick and wet. So he's like, he looked like a big otter. And knew before the names of all of them, so had I noted them when they were chosen, and when they called each other, listened how. And he's like, so, remember all those demons? Like, just remember the names, because, like, I just told you their names, and now they're gonna talk to each other. O Rubicante, see that thou do lay thy claws upon him, so that thou mayest flay him, cried all together the accursed ones. They're like, hey, Rubicante! Tear that fool up! Lay into him! He shouldn't be outside the pitch! Scratch him up! And I, my master, see to it if thou canst, that thou mayst know who is the luckless wight that come into his adversary's hands. And he's like, Virgil, find out who that guy is that they're about to torture. Near to the side of him my leader drew it, asked of him whence he was, and he replied, I in the kingdom of Navarre was born. My mother placed me servant to a lord, for she had borne me to a ribald knave, destroyer of himself and his things. He's like, well, I was born in Navarre, and I was in the service of a lord, you know, like a small page or underling, and my mom made me go into that job because she kind of had me out of wedlock to, like, a guy who was totally self-destructive. It was not a good marriage. Then I domestic was of good King Tybalt, and I set me there to practice barratry, for which I pay the reckoning in this heat. He's like, so I worked for King Tybalt, or Tybalt, could be Tybalt, and unfortunately I became a barrister, like I became like a person of the law, and unfortunately I you know, that's what landed me in here. I took bribes and graft, and, you know, I was corrupt. And Seriato, from which his mouth projected on either side a tusk as in a boar, caused him to feel how one of them could rip. So, like, the demon with tusks sticking out like he's a boar just comes over and bites him with one of his tusks. Because this is what the demons in the Malabronk is, this collection of demons. It's like their little posse. And it's called the Malabronk, which means, like, the evil hand or the evil claws. Like, they're each one of the claws on this mini-clawed hand that snatch at the people at the bottom of the ditch, and it's their job to make sure everybody stays under the pitch, and if they don't, they get tortured, and, like, you know, for fun and for sport, by these demons. And so that's what's happening right now, and they're like, ha-ha, gotcha, you got out of the pitch, you idiot, get back in there, and we're gonna torture you just so you learn your lesson. Among malicious cats the mouse had come, but Barbarica clasped him in his arms and said, stand ye aside while I enfork him. So, they're all kind of, like, clawing at him and scratching this guy, and Barbarica's like, back off, guys, he's mine. I'm gonna kick his ass. I bet those dorks have matching jackets. Yeah, they're all walking around with, like, Hell's Letter jackets. You know? And to my master, he turned round his head. Ask him again, he said, if more thou wish to know from him before someone destroy him. And Barbarica's like, if you have any more questions for this guy before I tear him apart, and then he magically comes back to life and I do it again, you better ask. The guide said, now then tell of the other culprits. Knowest thou anyone who is elation under the pitch? So he's like, hey, before you get torn to pieces, do you know any other Italians that might be here in the pitch? Because it's like all Dante ever cares about is people from his own country and, like, people that he knows. So he's like, is there anybody I know here, or anybody who might be from Florence or at least Italy? I don't care about anybody else, and I certainly don't care about you. No matter how much I say I'm weeping at your situation. I mean, I want one. Yeah, no kidding. I want us to have matching letter jackets that say, like, Malabronk mischief or something. Ooh, I want to make that patch now. I want to put that on my jacket. It's the claw of the Malabronk hand, but it's just like given like the horns. Varsity squad or motorcycle gang. Yeah, I think it could be both. Could be both. Varsity gang. They're a varsity gang. Yeah, junior varsity gang. You know, they're gonna move up to major varsity gang. Let's see here. And so the guy who's being tortured said, I separated lately from one who was a neighbor to it. Would that I still were covered up with him, for I should fear neither claw nor hook. He's like, yeah, there was an Italian who was like right next to me in the pitch, but, you know, I'm starting to feel that I wish I was back in the boiling pitch, because then I wouldn't be afraid to be torn to pieces by these idiots. He's like, I would rather be boiling in tar than here right now, because this, amazingly enough, is probably gonna hurt more than being boiled alive in tar. And Libacocco said, we have borne too much, and with his grapnel seized him by the arms, so that by rending he tore off a tendon. He's like, I'm tired of listening to him! And like hooks him with his pitchfork and like tears open his arm. Ere Dragignazzo wished to pounce upon him down at the legs, wherein their Decurion turned around and round with the evil hook. And so like they're all kind of like jumping on this guy like, I'm gonna kick his ass! No, I'm gonna kick his ass! Ha ha ha! This is how you have fun, you know? In the Malabronk. When they were again somewhat pacified of him, who still was looking at his wound, demanded my conductor without stay, who was that one from whom a luckless parting thou sayest thou made to come ashore? So, like, after they had been tearing at this poor guy like some sort of, like, human piñata, Virgil's like, so anyways, who was that Italian guy you were talking about? And he replied, it was the Friar Gomita, he of Galura, vessel of all fraud, who had the enemies of the Lord in hand and dealt so with them, each exalts thereat. Money he took and let them smoothly off, as he says, and in other offices a barator was he, not mean but sovereign. For gathers with him one Don Michel Zanche of Logodoro, and of Sardinia, to gossip never do their tongues feel tired. He's like, well, the guy I was talking about was a friar, you know, a monk named Gomita, and he was of Galura, and he was super corrupt, and, you know, he had the enemies of the Lord in his hand. He had some bad people that opposed the church, you know, in his grasp, and he let them off, you know, because they paid him. And in other officers, a barator was he, not mean but sovereign. He's like, and also he was kind of like a chief lawyer among other people. It's not like a lawyer's not really the same thing as a barator, but like, you know, he worked the law basically, and he was, you know, very, very important in that respect. But not important in a good way, important in a like I'm super powerful and rich kind of way. For gathers with him one Don Michel Zanche, so he's naming other people who were also corrupt and took bribes. And it's just Dante once again calling out all the people he thinks needs to be called out for their atrocities. He's like, yeah, and these people were corrupt too, and also these people I don't like. Oh me, see that one, how grinds his teeth. Still farther I would speak, but am afraid lest he scratch my itch be making ready. He's like, look, I don't want to say anymore because that guy over there is really looking scary. Can I just stop talking? And the Grand Provost turned to Farfarello, who rolled his eyes about as if to strike, and said, stand aside there, thou malicious bird. If you desire either to see or hear the terror-stricken recommence thereon, Tuscans or Lombards, I will make them come. So he's like, yo, stand down, stop hurting this guy, I'm talking to him. And the guy being tormented was like, if you want to see more people from Italy, or, like, from your own country, or wherever, I can make that happen. But let the Malabronk cease a little, so that these may not their revenges fear, and I, sitting down in this very place, for one that I am will make 7 come, when I shall whistle as our custom is to do whenever one of us comes out. He's like, alright, if like the Malabronk, like all the demons back off, and like go, you know, make it look like they're not here, then I'll give like our special all clear whistle that we sometimes use when, you know, we want to come out of the pitch, you know, when you guys aren't around. And that, you know, like I'm only one guy, but I could make 7 more come up, and you could have fun torturing them, or questioning, whichever, you know, question, torture, whatever. You know, I could make them come up too, you know, by tricking them and thinking that, you know, it's all clear. I'll just give our all clear signal. But you have to, you know, kind of, you can't be standing here when they do it, because the minute they come out, they're going to see you, and then they're just going to run away again. So you gotta kind of hide yourselves a little bit, or at least go away from the edge of the bridge. Like, just go a little bit away from the edge of the bridge. Cagnazzo at these words, his muzzle lifted, shaking his head, and said, just hear the trick which he has thought of down to throw himself. Whence he who snares in great abundance had, responded, I am far too cunning when I procure mine for a greater sadness. So, So one of the demons is like, oh, that's a trick. He's just gonna run away. He's just, if we let him go, he's just, and you know, back off a little, he's just gonna run away. And other guy's like, I'm too smart to let him run away. Like, no way. I'll catch him. No. I'll catch him if he runs away. Alekino held not in, but running counter unto the rest, said, If thou dive, I will not follow thee upon the gallop, but I will beat my wings above the pitch, the height be left, and be the bank a shield to see that thou alone dost countervail us. So he's like, well, if you, like, try to escape, or, like, jump into the ditch or whatever, I'm gonna be flying above you. And, you know, and I'm gonna get you. You know, so, like, we're watching you, basically. He's like, all right, we're watching you. We got you covered from the air. We got you covered, you know, and we're watching you. So don't pull anything. Oh, thou readest, thou shalt hear new sport. He's like, oh, reader, you are not going to believe what happened next. Each to the other side, his eyes averted. He first, who most reluctant was to do it. So like the Malebranche demons, they all kind of like moved a little away, and they looked away. Like, they didn't want to, but they just kind of, like, looked a little to the side, like they're not looking, you know. The Navarrese selected well his time, planted his feet on land, and in a moment leaped and released himself from their design. So the guy who was caught was, like, he took his time, he walked over to the bridge, and then he was like, later, suckers! And, like, jumped back into the pitch to get away from them. Whereat each one was suddenly stung with shame, but he most who was cause of the defeat. Therefore he moved and cried, Thou art overtaken! And they're like, What? He got away from us! We're such idiots! And the guy in the air is like, Don't worry, guys, I got him! But little it availed, for wings could not outstrip the fear. The other one went under, and flying upward his breast directed not otherwise. The duck upon a sudden dives under, when the falcon is approaching, and upwardeth he returneth cross and weary. So he's like, I got him! But like the guy got under the pitch. You know, he got under the tar faster, and the flying demon was like, dang! And he just kind of like flies and makes a U-turn and kind of slowly comes back up. Infuriate at the mockery, Calcibrina, flying behind him, followed close, desirous the other should escape to have a quarrel. There was another guy who, like, another demon jumped down and flew towards them, and he was like, oh, come on! You let him go! But sooth the other was a doughty sparhawk to Clapperclaw well, and both of them fell in the middle of the boiling pond. And so he... Oh, wait, I skipped one. The one before that was, and when the Barrier had disappeared, he turned his talons upon his companion and grappled with him right above the moat. So, like, these two demons, he's like, you let him go, you idiot! And they're like, no, yo, it's not my fault! And they started, like, fighting in the midair, and they're like, and then he's like, oh, crap! And they all fell into the pitch. And so, like, the two demons fell into the tar and got stuck. A sudden intercessor was the heap, but nevertheless of rising there was not, to such a degree that they had their wings belimed. And they're like, oh man, now my wings are covered in tar and I can't fly. Ah, crap, we're stuck in the pitch. We're such idiots. Lamenting with the others, Barbarica made 4 of them fly to the other side with all their gaffs, and very speedily this side and that they do their post descended. They stretched their hooks towards the pitch and snared, who already were baked within the crust, and in this manner busied did we leave them. And so the other demons are like, oh my god, our friends are so stupid! And they kind of flew down to the either side of the pitch, down in the ditch, and they're like, they stuck their tridents out, they're like, grab it, dummies! Come on, man! Like, just, I can't believe we have to rescue you! Like, grab the stick! And they're just like, oh, my wings are all covered in tar, I can't get out! And they're like, you guys are idiots! Why are all my friends so stupid? And so this is kind of like just a little comedy bit, where Dante's like, and also the demons of the Malebold are really stupid. And, you know, and they just kind of like bicker among each other, and then fall into the pitch, and then have to have their dumb friends rescue them. Which is kind of great. Hang on, my throat's killing me. Cough. So, are you sure you want a varsity jacket from the Malebranche now, Gonzo? Because they're kind of a bunch of idiots. Perfection. I like them. They all have, like, dumb nicknames. And they're all, like, dumb as rocks. He's like, hey, if you, like, let me go, I'll, you know, over to the edge, I'll bring 7 more guys up for you to torment. I don't know, I think he's bluffing, I think he's gonna run away. He's not gonna run away. He's not gonna jump back in the pitch. No, I'd never do that. Yeah, you're too fast for me. Alright, we'll let you do it. So long, shitlords! They just jumps back in like, suckers! And they're like, oh man, we suck. I mean, so am I. No, I like the Malabronk. They're just kind of a bunch of idiots. It's kind of great. I love it. Coughing. Alright, so in Canto 23. So while they were like, oh, just grab the hook! Grab the hook, you idiot! Grab the hook! And they're just like, I can't, I'm stuck in the tower, I'm such a dirt rock, stupid moron! And they're like, grab the hook, dummy! And while they were all busy trying to get their friends out of the being stuck in the pitch, Virgil and Dante were like, let's get the hell out of here. And they just kind of like snuck away. They're like, this is literally too stupid for words, let's just go. And so they got away from their demon guides and probably were very glad because they're like, you know what, we can find the other bridge ourselves. Thank you. We don't need none of this. We're done. Goodbye. Silent, alone, and without company we went, as the one in front, the one after, as go the minor friars along the way. He's like, so we walked single file, quietly, like, silently, alone, and, you know, towards the unbroken next bridge. Upon the fable of Aesop was directed my thought by reason of the present quarrel, where he has spoken of the frog and mouse. For Mo and Issa are not more alike than this is to that, and well we couple end and beginning with a steadfast mind. So he's like, I was thinking of the Aesop's fable, you know, of the mouse and the frog, and I was like, huh, I kind of like, you know, it kind of reminds me of this situation. The Aesop's fable of the mouse and the frog is that a mouse asked a frog to give him a ride across a pond, and the frog, for whatever reason, didn't like the mouse and figured he would dive down halfway through and drown him. And so, to do this, he was like, okay, but I'm going to tie you on my back so you don't fall off. Okay, because his idea was to dive down and he wouldn't drown, but the mouse would because it wouldn't be able to swim up to the top of the water. And so the mouse is like, okay, and tied himself to the back of the frog. So then they go about through, you know, the pond and everything, and just suddenly a hawk sees the mouse swimming around in the pond and swoops down and grabs the mouse. And the frog is like, wait, and the frog is still tied to the mouse. So he got eaten by the hawk as well. So it's like how we try to hurt others, we end up hurting ourselves. And I guess that's, you know, a lot like those goofy Malabronk buffoons. They tried to hurt another guy, ended up themselves in the pitch. Like idiots. And even as one thought from another springs, so afterward from that another was born, which the first fear within me double made. Thus did I ponder, those on our account are laughed to scorn with injury and scoff so great, that much I think it must annoy them. If anger be engrafted on ill will, they will come after us more merciless than dog upon the lever at which he seizes. So he's like, you think maybe those demons are gonna get kinda pissed? Like, I mean, it's their fault they fell in the pitch, but once they get out, they're probably gonna be really mad at us. And when they do get out, and when they are mad at us, they might come after us. You know, as quickly as a dog will chase a leveret, a young hare, a young rabbit. He's like, I think they're gonna come and kick our butts, Virgil. Like, they're gonna be really mad when they get out of that pitch. I felt my hair stand all on end already with terror, and stood backwardly intent, when said I, Master, if thou hidest not thyself and me forthwith, of Malabronk I am in dread. We have them now behind us, I so imagine them. God, the typos in this are great. And I already feel them. He's like, okay, don't freak out, Virgil. Don't freak out, but I think the Malabronk is coming after us. We need to hide again. We need to hide. And said he, if I were made of leaded glass, thine outward image I should not attract sooner to me than I imprint the inner. He's like, dude, you're reading my mind. Just now thy thoughts came in among my own, with similar attitude and similar face, so that of both one counsel soul I made. So he's like, I think you're right. I totally just had the same thought. If peradventure the right bank so slope that we to the next bulge can descend, we shall escape from the imagined chase. So he's like, okay, here's the thing. Look around, like, if we get to this next embankment sort of thing, and it slopes down close enough that we can kind of, like, hop onto it and cross over to the next ditch, we'll escape them. The implication here is that the Malabronk are stuck in that one circle of the Malabulge. They don't have free reign of all of it. So if they can just get to the next area, they'll be kind of like held back by demon force field. Like, the demons will be like those dogs with electronic collars on, like, oh god, I can't get out at you, you know? Not yet he finished rendering such opinion when I beheld them come with outstretched wings not far remote with will to seize upon us. He's like, oh my god, Virgil! Like, he wasn't even done talking, he's like, here they come! It was just as I said, they're gonna kick our butts! And my leader all on a sudden sees me up, even as a mother who by noise is wakened, and close beside her sees the enkindled flames, who takes her son and flies and does not stop, having more care of him than herself, so that she clothes her only with a shift, and downward from the top of the hard bank, supine gave him to the pendant rock that other side of the other bulge walls. So he's like, and just as I saw them coming, Virgil grabbed me up in his big old strong arms and carried me off, just like a mother saving her baby from the fire and not thinking anything of her own safety, only thinking of her son. Because Virgil loves me so much, we're so much more than friends. You all suck, I met Virgil. he's my bestest friend in the whole world, and he loves me like I'm his own kid, like we're family or something, or we're gonna get married. And it just kills me the way he describes this, because he clearly wants to show the reader, like, I'm BFFs with Virgil, you guys. The Virgil. I met him, and I'm BFFs with him, and we're such good friends, because I am such an amazing person and poet. But, like, he kind of really overdoes it, because he's like, every time we're in trouble, Virgil picks me up, a grown man in another grown man's arms, and, like, carries me off to places. It's not like when, you know, they would show, like, angels in, like, old paintings, like, picking people up and carrying them to safety, because at least they had wings. Like, there was a reason that the angel was picking people up and carrying them off. Like, in this one, it's just a grown man picking up another grown man and running with him. You know? It's weird, is what it is. He's like, I'll save you, Gary! And then just, like, pick him up in his arms and trot along with him. And it's just like, you know, I can run too. Like, I can also run. But he's just like, he just picked me up bodily and ran with me like a mother with her son. I'm like, yeah, but her son is usually not full grown. Like, her son is usually not a full grown man. It's like a little baby, so... Oh my god. Virgil is the hero we deserve. Yeah, Virgil should get combat pay for this just because he has to pick up Dante's dumb nerdy ass and carry him everywhere. Carry me, Virgil! Can't you just walk yourself? You're a 35-year-old man. Can't you just walk? You walked this entire way down here with me. I know you can. So he, like, picks him up and, like, holds him to his chest and bridal carries him, because that's the only way he could be carrying him. It's not like he slung him over his shoulder or gave him a piggyback ride. So he, like, picks up Dante and bridal carry, runs him as fast as he can down to the embankment. Never ran so swiftly water from a sluice to turn the water of any land-built mill when nearest to the paddles it approaches, as did my master down along that border, bearing me with him on his breast away as his own son and not as a companion. He's like, faster than water through a sluice gate. Virgil carried me all the way down to the border between the, you know, here and the next ditch, and he carried me as close to him as if we were more than friends. You know, as if I were his own son and not as a companion. Like we were family. Like he's basically saying, we're more than friends, guys. We're like, he's more than just a friend, okay? We are that close. Like, he likes me like more than a friend. Like, we're not just pals on this trip that just happened to meet up, even though that's exactly what happened. Like, he is, like, way into me. And he may try to explain it as, well, I'm just showing how nice Virgil is and how heroic he is. But no, he's really just kind of, like, talking up, like, BFF. We are way more than friends. We are way close BFF nows. And I'm just like, You know what? I have BFFs, and I don't pick them up and carry them. It's just like, hey, let's go to the car and go get some slushies. Chris, get in my arms, and I will carry you there. And she'd just be like, no, you have a bad back. And it's just like, but we're friends. Like, nobody, who does that? Like, nobody does that. That's what makes this whole thing so hilarious. Is that, you know, like, you might be, like, reading it in high school and be like, oh, these old-timey stories when dudes were always like, I will carry thee unto my breast, and back in the day, people would be like, no, this is also weird for us. This is also weird for us. People 900 years in the future, or whenever, this is also 800, 700, whatever. He's like, whatever he was just like, this is also strange for us. We also think this is creepy. Yay! Hate is here! Happy Hate Day, I birth everything. We're talking about Dante. Happy birthday! Oh, the happy birthday beautifully bird. I love your birthday! I love your birthday! He loves you. He loves you, like, more than Virgil. Beautiful lifing! Happy birthday, dude. I hoped you guys been doing fun stuff. We figured you were out, like, gadding about on your birthday, doing other stuff. So we did not distress that you're not attending. So, hey, we've been reading some... You just missed the comedy part with the demons of the Malabronk, where they all were like tormenting souls in the fifth ditch, and one soul gets it over on them, and he's like, "See you later, suckers," and like escapes down into another ditch, and they're like, "No, go get him, you guys!" And then they couldn't catch him, and they're like, "This is your fault! No, this is your fault!" And then they all start fighting, and they all fall in a big pile of tar and get stuck and have to fish each other out. And Dante and Virgil are like, "This is too stupid to look at. Let's just leave. Let's just go before they try and beat us up." Oh man, so great. And then Dante went on and on and on about, you know, the demons chasing them down to do them harm, and Virgil picked him up in his big strong arms again and carried him like a mother carries her son. He carried him so close, this grown man carrying it like a 50-year-old man carrying a 35-year-old man, because apparently Dante has no use of his legs when he's scared or whatever, and just running with him. And he's like, "He held me close as if I was more than just a companion, like I was his own son. We're so good, we're so BFFs, we're so close, we're like soulmates." And I was explaining that people, you know, nowadays may be like, well, that's just how they wrote back then. Everything was super silly and, like, overly, like, weirdly affectionate and, like, just blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, this was weird back then, too. Back then, they were just like, "Dante, do you need a moment? Kooky demon hijinks." The demons are hijinking for Hate's birthday. No, Hate, you really have to go back and listen to, if you don't know the story of the Malabronk. I freaking love the Malabronk because they're idiots. I kind of want there to be like a Malabronk of, like the Malabread, and it would just be like a bunch of breadstick demons that like Pizza Bub is like, "Oh no, here come those guys." And they're like, "Hey Pizza Bub, hey Pizza Bub, we're part of Pizza Hell too. We punish people for not liking pizza." And he's like, "Those guys are idiots." He's like, why did my dad hire them? They're such morons." And they're just like, "Hey, oh dang it, I slipped and fell in the sauce. Oh no, I fell in the sauce. Everybody stop falling in the sauce. My friends are so stupid." I like the Malabread. And they're just like breadstick demons, and they're like, "Hey, we're cool like Pizza Bub and his dad." And they're like, "No, you're not. No, you're not. You're a doofus." Malabrioche. I don't know, like, I like Malabrioche because it looks better when written, but Malabread is easier to say, and it kind of sounds like Malabronk. Oh, how about the Malabrunch? Oh, I like the Malabrunch! Because it's not the Malabronk, it's the Malabrunch. And they're like, "Hey, pizza can be eaten for sort of breakfast, sort of lunch. It's true." And he's just like, "Oh, God. The Malabrunch." I like that. Which would just mean bad brunch. Just have Pizza Bub misname them all the time. He's like, "Hey, Bad Tail. Hey, Red-Faced Terror. Hey, Grace Stomper." And they're like, "It's Dave. It's Gary. It's Jordan. I said Grace Stomper." Okay, sure. Like, they think they're as cool as Pizza Bub, son of the Pizza Devil, and they're like, yeah, we're basically on his level. You know, we follow his dad too, and he's just like, "Those guys are so not on my level." They're like, "Yeah, we're like his posse," and he's just like, "I'm Pizza Bub and I roll alone. These guys are not my posse." Malapropos. Nice. I really like the Malabrunch. The Malabrunch. Anyways. So, Virgil carried Dante like a beautiful princess who was more than just a friend, you know, as his own son and not as a companion, as he says. "We are contemporaries." "No, you're not!" He's like, "Okay, like, yeah, technically your dad is in charge, so you're like the prince of Pizza Hell, I guess. You know, you're not the king, you're the prince and everything. But like, we're pretty much just as good and powerful." And he's just like, "Dad, why did you hire those guys?" And he's just like, "Hey, just look, they're just interns, okay? They like to think they're cool. Like, I don't even pay them. Like, I don't even call them the Malabrunch. They came up with that name for themselves." And they're like walking around in their varsity jackets like, "Hell yeah, dude, we're so cool. They're always like name dropping Pizza Bub to the sinners. They're like, "Hey, guy, I'm sticking with a fork." Yeah, I know Pizza Bub. We're basically best friends. And Pizza Bub's like, "Hey, Gary, get back to work." And he's just like, "All right, yeah, you got it, dude. You got it, buddy." What'd you call me? Nothing. I am Pizza Bub, and I roll alone. Yeah, seriously. He doesn't need a posse. He's his own posse. So they're always, like, name-dropping him to, like, themselves and other demons. And he's just like, "No, I'm not friends with you. Just because you're, like, my age and everything doesn't mean we're peers. We are not peers. I am the son of Crust. You are a bunch of dumb demon interns. And you won't stop falling in the marinara. You clumsy idiots." Okay. So Virgil picked up Dante like a princess and hustled him as fast as he could to this like fallen embankment that would serve as kind of a bridge over to the next ditch of the Malivulge. And he's just like, "Yeah, we're not going to make it as far as that bridge they told us to take, so we're just, oh god, we just gotta hustle, we gotta hustle." Hardly had the bed of the ravine below his feet had reached ere they had reached the hill right over us, but he was not afraid, for the high providence which had ordained to place them ministers of the fifth mote, the power of thence departing took from all. So they kind of like jumped into the next ditch. They jumped into the sixth circle of the Malivulge, and the other demons were like, "Ah, crap! Our electronic collars went off." They're like, we're only allowed to be in this one ditch, in the fifth ditch. We're not allowed into the sixth one. So they're like, "Ah, crap! You win this round, Virgil and his suspicious male companion Dante." All right. Hey, Ming. Oh, you want to play with the foam? You want to play with the foam? Hang on, I gotta pick out some choice pieces of foam for my cat to play with. Hey, buddy, look. Whoosh. Whoosh. Ooh, pieces of foam are so interesting, aren't they? Yeah, they are. I need a drink. Oh. This is like doing like a 5-hour speech every night for 3 nights straight, so this is tough. Okay. Okay, so they jumped into the sixth ditch. They're like, "I don't even care what's in the sixth ditch, I'm just jumping in, I hope it's not tar." A painted people there below we found, who went about with footsteps very slow, weeping and in their semblance tired and vanquished. They had on mantles with the hoods low down before their eyes, in fashion of the cut that in Cologne they for the monk's ark made. Without they gilded are so that it dazzles, but inwardly all leaden and so heavy that Frederick used to put on them on of straw. So he's like, we jumped into the next ditch, and all these people were walking around, and they look like they're in, like, kind of, like, hooded monks' robes. Like, really heavy hoods, you know, over their faces and everything. And... Hey. Sorry, the cat is bothering me. And on the outside of them, they're all, like, glittery and gold and painted and beautiful mantles. But on the inside, they're lined with heavy, heavy lead. And he makes a comparison, you know, they kind of, you know, they look like the cut of that Cologne, that monks of Cologne would wear. And inwardly all leaden and heavy. And he says that Frederick used to put them on of straw. He's like, there was a ruler named Frederick who sometimes would execute people by putting like these lead or like metal mantles or like, you know, kind of like hooded sheets or something on people and then melting it on them. like it was like if somebody put like a big metal cloak and hood on you, you know, it was like stiff and made of metal, and put you inside of it, and then melted it until it, like, compacted around you. So, like, it's like, it's just, you know what, it's like, at that point, it's like, just hang the people. Stop getting so creative. Just hang the people. Crying out loud, it seems like it would be expensive to execute people like that. But he's like, but it was like that, because they were all dazzling and shiny and glittery on the outside, and, like, heavy as lead, literally lined with lead on the inside. So all these people are walking around really slowly because their hooded cloaks are so heavy. Oh, everlastingly fatiguing mantle, again we turned us still to the left hand, along with them intent on their sad plaint. But owing to the weight that weary folk came on so tardily that now we were new in company at each motion of the haunch. So he's like, these people were walking so slowly because these things were so heavy on them that, like, and we were trying to walk along with them, but they were so slow that every time we took 2 steps, we were next to a new person. You know, it was like, we couldn't walk slowly enough to keep next to the same person. Every time we took like 3 steps, we'd be 2 people ahead of them because they were walking so slowly. Whence I unto my leader said, "See thou find someone who may by deed or name be known, and thus in going move thine eyes about." And one who understood the Tuscan speech cried out to us from behind, "Stay ye your feet, ye whoso runneth forth the dusky air, perhaps thou'lt have from me without demandest." So, Dante's like, "Hey, Virgil, can you, like, look around and see if there's anybody worth talking to here?" And a guy behind him is like, "Oh, hey, you're Italian! You know, I'm Italian. Hang on a minute. Like, I'll be there in a second. It's really heavy. You know, maybe you'll get your questions answered by me. Hang on." Whereat the leader turned to him and said, "Wait," and then, according to his pace, proceed. So he's like, all right, so Virgil says, "Okay, Dante, like, slow your roll, and we'll just wait until that guy catches up to us in this long line of sinners in these heavy cloaks, and then just walk real slowly next to him. I stopped, and too beheld I show great haste of spirit in their faces to be with me, but the burden and the narrow way delayed them." So he's like, so 2 people actually wanted to come up and talk to me, but, like, the ditch is so narrow, and the robes are so heavy that, like, it just took them forever. When they came up, long with an eye askance, they scanned me without uttering a word, then to each other turned, and said together, "He by the action of his throat seems living, and if dead are, by what privilege go they uncovered by the heavy stole?" So he's like, I think this... So the 2 guys finally caught up to Dante, and then, like, looked at him without talking to him, and then they looked at each other. They're like, you know, his throat is moving, like he's breathing. Do you think he might be alive? And if he's not alive, why is he here, and, like, unlike us, he doesn't have to wear this big, stupid lead mantle? Then said to me, "Tuscan, who to the college of miserable hypocrites art come, do not disdain to tell us who thou art." And so he's like, "Hey, you, Italian alive guy, you're in the circle of hypocrites. Who are you?" And I to them said, "Born was I and grew up in the great town of the fair river of Arno, and with the body am I've always had. But who are ye in whom there trickles down along your cheeks such grief as I behold, and what pain is upon you that so sparkles?" He's like, "Well, I'm actually from Italy, and I grew up in a town on the river of Arno, and I am alive. This is my body. It's still my living body. I'm not a ghost like you. Who are you, and what is your deal? Like, what manner of deal is this that you are crying so hard, and what is this mantle you're wearing that's so heavy, but it's so sparkly and pretty on the outside?" And one replied to me, "These orange cloaks are made of lead so heavy that the weights cause in this way their balances to creak. Frati Gaudenti were we, and Bolognese, and I Catalano, and he Lodoringo named, and together taken by thy city, as the wont is to take one man alone, for maintenance of its peace, and we were such that it is still apparent around Gardingo." So what he's saying is, he's like, oh yeah, well, I'm trying to look up, they named themselves, so I'm trying to look up their history. Sorry, I'm just, like, trying to find them. Because they named themselves as friars of, yeah, it's like he were Frati Gaudenti, where he's like, they were brothers, like, Christian, church brothers, not brothers related. Brothers in an ecclesiastical sense. And they had been to the city that Dante is from. One of them was named Catalano. The other guy's name is Lodoringo. So, oh my god. Now I'm stuck on that melting people inside. Now I'm having fun looking at the people, like, looking up the people melting inside the thing. That's kind of awesome. So anyways, I'm trying to find the 2 guys he's talking about. Oh, I guess they're just nobodies. Whatever. Anyway, they're not anybody special. That's why I can't find anything on them. But anyways, they're hypocrites. So they're just kind of like, they're just hypocrites, and, you know, they were of the church, but they didn't act like they were of the church, and all this. Every time I look around, I keep looking over and seeing, I'm Pizza Bub, and I roll alone. Oh my gosh. And so, you know, they aren't that very important because the very next phrase, like Dante says, "Oh, friars," began I, "you're iniquitous," and then he kind of trails off because he's like, "But said no more, for to mine eyes there rushed one crucified with 3 stakes to the ground." So he's like, he's like, "So you guys are friars of the church? Oh my God, who's that guy over there?" like that's why I can't find anything on them. They're just 2 guys. They're not anybody important from history, and they're obviously not anybody Dante hates enough to put in the circle of hypocrites, except to point out that once again the church is full of hypocrites. That's just his thing in this, is how much he hates hypocrisy and greed and such in the Catholic Church. So they're most likely just there for him to once again point out that, oh, look at all the holy people who are in hell. Told you. Yeah, and so he's like, So friars, oh my God, look at that guy on the ground. Like, there's a guy over there and he's staked to the ground. Like, he's staked out like he's crucified, but he's just like, he's got like his hands and then, spread out, and then his feet, and with 3 stakes, he's crucified like on the ground. When me he saw, he writhed himself all over, blowing into his beard with suspirations, and the friar Catalan, who knowed this, said to me, "This transfixed one whom thou seest counseled the Pharisees that it was meet to put one man to torture for the people. Crosswise and naked is he on the path as thou perceivest, and he must needs feel whoever passes first how much he weighs, and in like mode his father-in-law is punished within this mote, and the others of the council, which for the Jews was a malignant seed." So this guy is actually like an actual person who is actually from history. So he's like, who's that guy over there who's like in a position of crucifixion, but he's staked to the ground? And they're like, oh, that guy, that is Caiaphas, and he is, at least his fan fiction is calling out political corruption. He really is. And now you can see why Dante was, he was of the opinion, unlike Farinata and all the others who were rival to his party, that the church should be separate from the state. He's like, we have enough corruption in the state, and I feel that the church has become very corrupt. We don't need any more corruption, thank you. Because, the arguing of the Gilibines and everything was like, the church should rule all because its holy influence will keep away, the corruption of secular design. And he's just like, you know what, the church is just as corrupt. I don't feel like that's going to help. It's like if some like super corrupt government now were just like, don't worry, we're gonna fix our corruption by making the church run everything, and Dante's like, that's not going to help. So he constantly calls out hypocrisy and corruption within the Holy Roman Church, and he's just like, he's constantly hammering on that drum. So there's a guy who's like, who's that guy on the ground? They're like, oh, that guy. Yeah, that guy. He's crucified. He's in a position of crucifixion, and he's staked to the ground in such a way that everybody who keeps walking, endlessly in this circle in the Malabol has to step on him. He just keeps getting stepped on over and over and over. And he is Caiaphas, who was high priest of the Jews at the time of Jesus' death. And he's the big sinner in this pit, because he's the guy who advised Pontius Pilate to condemn Jesus to death for the supposed benefit of the city. He said, he counseled the Pharisees that it was meet to put one man to torture for the people. And he was kind of a hypocrite because he was not a good guy. And wow, I say, wow. Right back, phone call. Okay, Hate, it's me. I'm calling you. Happy birthday, Hate. That's how I sound on the phone. I sound like some sort of terrible monster. And so he's kind of a huge hypocrite, because he's like, yeah, one man must suffer for the people, but it should be that innocent guy. It shouldn't be me. And in like mode, his father-in-law is punished within this mode, and the others of the council, for which the Jews was a malignant seed. And so he's like, yeah, and also, his dad is here, and because he's a bad guy too, and that sort of thing. They're all hypocrites, blah, blah, blah. And thereupon I saw Virgilius. For some reason, Dante sometimes just refused. He keeps calling him Virgil through the whole stupid thing, although Virgilius is his extended name. But then he just reverts back to calling him Virgilius. I don't know why. He's just kind of like, I don't know if it's like a poetic thing, or he's just trying to shake it up a little. doesn't want to keep writing Virgil. I don't know. I think Virgil's a nice name, and you should just stick to it. It's like, look, either call him Virgilius or Virgil. To the point where some people, it's so weird, I saw this interpretation where some people thought that it was two different poets. They're like, yeah, the first guy's name is Virgilius, and then the second guy's name who leads him through purgatory is Virgil. And I was like, no, they're the same person. He just keeps calling them by two different names. And thereupon I saw Virgilius marvel over him who was extended on the cross so vilely in eternal banishment. So Virgil is just kind of staring at this guy who's staked to the ground. Then he directed to the friar his voice, that other guy that they were talking to. Be not displeased if granted thee to tell us if to the right hand any path slope down by which we too may issue forth from here without constraining some of the black angels to come and extricate us from this deep. He's just kind of like staring at the guy on the ground. I guess because this guy got staked to the ground after Virgil had come to hell. So I guess Virgil maybe had not seen him before. Like last time Virgil came this way, it's implied that the last time Virgil came this way and went all the way down to Lake Cocytus, this guy wasn't here. And now he is, so Virgil's just kind of staring at him like, huh, well that's new. Technically in the original it's always Virgilius. Isn't that just a mistranslation, calling him Virgil and then Virgilius? I don't know. I have yet to look at the original Italian. If he stuck to it and called him Virgilius throughout the whole thing, then I take it back. But in that case, then this is a stupid translation because then they're calling him Virgil and Virgilius, and I don't know which it is. Every translation I've always seen, for some reason, interchanged the names. Is it always Virgilius, like consistently throughout the original Italian? If it is, then I concede that point to Dante, and I will call him less of an idiot for that. But he's still an idiot. I will knock off about 8% of how much I think he's an idiot. I actually don't know for sure. Well, we'll look it up later. How about that? I'll look it up when we're not reading. We'll just say for now, if he sticks to Virgilius the entire time, and yeah, I never noticed it either. Regine, the Pro, version 1.0. I always noticed in many translations that they waffle between the two, and I didn't know if that was a mistranslation or if he simply referred to him as Virgilius throughout the entire... It just kills me now. I'm just realizing I've never actually examined the original Italian of this, and it seems so weird to me because I should have. You know, how much I like this story. You'd think I'd check out the... When I read things that are translated, like, this or like just many other things, I always, even if I don't speak it, I examine the original language just to see how it looks and that sort of thing. I'm just kind of a nerd, okay? There is no other word for it. I'm just kind of a nerd. Oh my god, you guys, there's a thread on Reddit. Is it about this? Because that would be excellent. That would be extremely excellent. Arguing whether Dante was a virgin or a Chad. Dante was not a Chad, okay? We can just absolutely be certain Dante was not a Chad. You know how I know? Chads don't write fan fiction about themselves. I don't even want to see the arguments. Now, is it like they're being like, they're joking? Like, is this like in one of those men's rights Reddits where they're actually like having this serious discussion, or is it somebody like jokingly using the phrases virgin and Chad? Like, because if it's in like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, that's amazing. Dante was a nice guy. Yeah, Dante was a nice guy. There's no way he was a Chad, okay? He's the guy who's complaining like, yeah, I guess Jason was an okay guy. If you like womanizers who don't respect women the way I do. Yeah, no, Dante was a total nice guy. He was not a Chad. Thank you very much. And I stand by that. Writes fan fiction about going on adventures with his best friend Virgil. Total wish fulfillment. He is. He's not a Chad in any way. Look, I'll have to read that. Yeah, post that thread in the Discord for me if you can, Caddis. So, I think it's a joke. Thank God. Oh, good. Then I'll definitely want to read it. So Virgil is like staring at this guy, like, huh? I never. Last time I was down here, he wasn't there, so that's interesting. That's new. Anyways, and so he turns back to one of the other friars who are walking in the heavy hoods, and he's like, hey, do you know where we should go to get to the next bridge? You know, like to get to the next ditch, you know, because we're kind of going all the way in. We're going all the way down to Lake Cocytus. So, can you tell us where the next bridge is so that we can get the heck out of here, and how we can avoid seeing those demons we just saw? Because we don't want to go back up the way we came to go around and catch another bridge, because the Malabronk would probably be waiting for us to kick our asses. Thank you, Caddis. You find the best stuff. And then he made answer, nearer than thou hopest, there is a rock that forth from the great circle proceeds and crosses all the cruel valleys, save that at this 'tis broken and does not bridge it. You will be able to mount up the ruin that sidelong slopes and at the bottom rises. The leader stood a while with head bowed down, then said, the business badly he recounted who grapples with his hook the sinners yonder. And the friar, many of the devil's vices once I heard at Boulogne, and among them that he's a liar and the father of lies. So the friar's like, oh, the bridge is over there, but it's broken. Like, it's busted. You know, like Virgil's like, well, the demons told us that like that this bridge, the sixth bridge, was intact. You know, we could cross it, but that the other bridge on the fifth one was broken, so we had to go around. He's like, no. This one is broken too. It fell down, you know, back in the day when the harrowing happened. So, I mean, there's a big rock you could try and like climb up, but you're gonna be hard pressed to do it. Hang on. Music a little loud for me. There we go. And so, like, Virgil just kind of looks at the ground and hangs his head like he's kind of pissed off. And he's like, well, it looks like those demons weren't exactly truthful with us. And the friar kind of looks at him. He's like, I've heard the demons lie. He's like, I heard the demons lie, and the devil is called the father of all lies. He's kind of just like, yeah, what did you expect? They're devils. Of course they're going to lie to you. You dingus. He's just kind of, and like the friar just kind of looks at Virgil like, and you believe them? Like, what is wrong with you? And so thereat my leader with great strides went on, somewhat disturbed with anger in his looks, whence from the heavy laden I departed after the prince of his beloved feet. Gasp! Bad people lie? Yeah, demons lie? And so Dante is like, oh, yeah, so then, like, Virgil just kind of stomped off, like, looking really pissed off. He's like, I can't believe this. And, you know, I just kind of followed after him. After the prince of his beloved feet. And he's just like, is everything okay, Virgil, honey? And Virgil's like, I don't want to talk about it. Not even bad people, but constructs literally built on evil and sin. Yeah, people who are deliberately made to torment and deceive. Shut up! Those people lie? That's crazy. Like, take it back, I say. I say to you, sir, take it back. Golly, demons lie? And so Virgil's like, oh my god, like, seriously? And he goes stomping off, and Dante's like, hey, Virgil, everything okay? And he's like, don't talk to me. So Virgil's kind of losing his cool here. So, Canto 24. In that part of the youthful year wherein the sun his locks beneath Aquarius tempers, and now the nights draw near to half the day, what time the hoarfrost copies on the ground the outward semblance of her sister white, but little lasts the temper of her pen, the husbandman whose forage faileth him rises and looks and sees the champagne all gleaming white, whereat he beats his flank, returns indoors and up and down laments like a poor wretch who knows not what to do. Then he returns and hope revives again, seeing the world has changed its countenance in little time, and takes his shepherd's crook and forth the little lambs to pasture drives. Thus did the master fill with me alarm when I beheld his forehead so disturbed, and to the ailment came as soon the plaster. For as soon we came upon the ruined bridge, the leader turned to me with that sweet look which at the mountain's foot I first beheld. So, Dante's describing his emotions with how Virgil is acting right now. He's like, man, you know how, like, in the winter when it just becomes all snowy and, like, you know, like you're like a poor farmer and everything, and you can't get enough to eat, and you're like so despairing of all the snow on the ground because you just want to go and like take your animals out to pasture, and you want it to be a nice sunny day again, because, you know, in the winter people starved to death back then, so it was kind of life or death. And he's like, and then finally the sun comes out and it all warms up again and you feel so much better, and you take your shepherd's crook and go out to pasture. I felt that way when I was certain that, like, Virgil was so upset and so angry, And then when we got to the ruined bridge, he kind of turned around and gave me that nice look that he gave me when he first met me, and I felt so much better. So he's like, I was really relieved. I was really upset at first, but he uses this long, like, simile to tell it. He's like, I was so upset, but I was equally just as relieved when it turned out that Virgil wasn't mad. Because he's like, I guess he's kind of worried that Virgil might be mad at him. Really gay. This is really gay. And I am loving every second of it. Oh man, if we have time tonight, I'll start in on Purgatorio. If you want to talk really something you'll love. My god. Have you read Purgatorio? It's great. I probably wouldn't read Paradiso because it's kind of boring, but Purgatorio is pretty good. Not as good as this, but pretty good. It has some great moments in it. His arms he opened, and after some advisement with him elected, looking first well out the room and laid hold of me, and even as he who acts and meditates, for I it seems that he provides beforehand, so upward lifting me towards the summit of a huge rock, he scanned another crag, saying, To that one grapple upwards, but try first if 'tis such that it will hold thee. Yeah, most people have only read the Inferno. I've read the others too. Paradiso is like, it's just kind of boring. It's just a lot of moralizing, and you don't get to laugh at people who are punished. You just get to listen to people go on and on about how great heaven is, but Purgatorio is pretty good. Inferno really is the best, but Purgatorio is pretty good, and it gets even more shippy between him and Virgil. But so Virgil just kind of like throws his arms open, like he looks at the fallen bridge that's all tumbled down in rocks, and he's like, okay, he's like, he thought it through, and he like flings his arms wide and picks up Dante in a big hug, because of course he does, and carries him up the broken rocks, and then puts him on a big rock and is like, okay, try to climb to that other big rock up there, but test it first with your feet, make sure it'll hold you. I don't have to think about that sort of thing because I'm weightless. How I'm picking you up, who knows? This was no way for one clothed with a cloak, for hardly he light and I pushed upward were able to descend from jag to jag. He's like, so it was kind of like a really hard climb, and I was not dressed for it. He's like, Virgil was, he's like a light, a lighter than air shade or whatever. He could get up there easily, which is funny because he states that Virgil can climb it easily without effort. And then later in Purgatorio, when they're climbing up the Mount Purgatory, he's like, Virgil was out of breath and panting climbing up the mountain and was like, shut up, I'm fine, shut up, I'm fine. And so he can't really make up his mind whether Virgil is like the strongest, most wonderful guy in the world who never tires when he's carrying him or whatever, or if he's like overcome like any mortal man by great strenuous climbing, and I bet like sweating in a really hot way or whatever. I don't know what goes on in Dante's mind. I mean, I do, but I don't want to think about it. And had it not been that upon that so he's like, yeah, and it was really slow going climbing up there because this whole bridge had collapsed and they were just climbing up the rubble of it. Virgil, the strongest man in the world. You're thinking of Artie, the strongest man in the world. And had it not been that upon that precinct shorter than the ascent than on the other, he I know not, but I had been dead beat. And he's like, if it weren't for, since it's the Malabulge, and it's all these concentric circles. Let me just make sure my camera is pointing this out. It's all these concentric circles going down. It's also sloped downwards. So it's kind of like this, like the bridge that they want to cross. The ditch is kind of like, this is the ditch, and the bridges go down, 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 because they're going down, down, down. And this bridge had collapsed, into a bunch of rubble that they're climbing. And he's like, man, I'm really glad we were climbing the short side to go down instead of up, because I was so tired. Like, I was just dead beat at the top, So he's just like, I'm glad we were climbing the short side. And he's like, I don't know about Virgil, but I was just done. But because Malabulge towards the mouth of the profoundest well is all inclining, the structure of each valley doth import that one bank rises and the other sinks. Still, so he's basically saying, like, but because we were going inwards, it was kind of easier. We weren't climbing the high side trying to get out. We were climbing the shorter side. That one, okay, still we arrived at length upon the point where from the last stone breaks itself asunder. So he's like, we got to, like, to the point where it's highest, and, we couldn't climb any more fallen rocks, and it's kind of like, Oh man, I'm so tired. The breath was from my lungs so milked away that when I was up that I could go no farther, nay, I sat down upon my first arrival. So Dante just sits down on the highest stone. He's like, oh, I can't climb anymore, Virgil. I'm so tired. Carry me. Now it behooves thee thus to put off sloth, my master said, for sitting upon down or under quilt one cometh not to fame without, in which whoso his life consumes such vestige leaveth of himself on earth. He's like, look, nobody ever got famous by sitting around. Like Virgil's like, come on, dude, come on, get up. Nobody ever made a name for himself laying in bed, is basically what he says. As smoke and air are in the water foam, and therefore raise thee up, overcome the anguish with spirit that overcometh every battle, if with its heavy body it sink not. A longer stairway it behooves thee mount, 'tis not enough from these to have departed. Let it avail thee if thou understand me. So he's like, you're gonna have to climb a much bigger stair if you want to get to heaven later on, so you better not give in now. You know, like, this isn't even, like, this isn't even the worst climb we're gonna have to do. So if you want to get where we're going later, you gotta suck it up. Then I uprose, showing myself provided better with breath than I did feel myself, and said, go on, for I am strong and bold. And he's like, so Dante stood up and he's like, yeah, no, I'm fine. And he's like trying to put on a brave face. He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I feel totally good. Let's go. Upward we took our way along the crag, which jagged was and narrow and difficult, and more precipitous far than that before. He's like, so the way was getting really difficult. Speaking I went, not to appear exhausted, whereat a voice from the next moat came forth, not well adapted to articulate words. So Dante's like trying to like chatter so he doesn't look like he's, you know, tired or anything. He doesn't want Virgil to think he's a wuss. So he's like, hey, so how about them Knicks? You know, like, I'm not tired. You're tired. I'm not tired. I know not what it said, though over the back I now was of the arch that passes there, but he seemed moved to anger who was speaking. So somebody from the next moat started yelling. He's like, blah, 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 blah. You know, and he's just like, I can't hear what that person is yelling, but boy, they sound pissed. Anyways, they finally got up to the top. And so they looked into the next ditch. I was bent downward, but my living eyes could not attain the bottom for the dark, wherefore I said, Master, see that thou arrive at the next round, and let us descend the wall, for as from hence I hear and understand not, so I look down and nothing I distinguish. He's like, hey, when we get over, you know, as close as we can to the next moat, can we, like, go down there? Because I can't, it's dark, and I can't see all the way down there, it's really deep. We're gonna have to go down there, because, like, I can't hear what that person is yelling. Other response, he said, I make thee not accept the doing, for the modest asking ought to be followed by the deed in silence. And so he's like, well, you know, Virgil's like, hey, you said it, not me. He's like, you ask if you want to do it, I'll do it. And I won't, yeah, he's just like, I'm not even gonna respond to that except by doing it. You know, like, no words, just deeds, basically. Hi, Rogue, how's it going? We're doing some foam work and some Dante. So he's like, hey, sooner said than done. So we from the bridge descended at its head, where it connects itself with the 8th bank, and then was manifest to me the Bolgia, and I beheld therein a terrible throng of serpents, and of such a monstrous kind that their remembrance still congeals my blood. So he's like, okay, so then we got into the next ditch of the Malabulge, and it was spooky, and there were a million snakes. Posted your dress in Discord. Ooh, I can't wait to see that. Did everybody see in Discord, Rogue got this, like, awesome dress that was, like, supposed to be, like, north of $80, but she got it for half? Oh, that is a really cute dress. Aww. Oh, if I were there, I would give you a button for it. I have many buttons. That's really cute. I have a dress kind of similar to that, but it has, like, an A-line skirt to it. But it's similar. It's very cute. I'm so glad you got it on sale, dude. You are gonna look so cute in it. You're gonna look so precious. Alright. So they went down into the next ditch of the Malabulge, and there were snakes everywhere. Snake Chief was just bossing them around. Let Libya boast no longer with her sand, for if Chalidri, Jaculi, and Fere she breeds with Kentry and with Amhisbana, I can't remember these names. Neither so many plagues nor so malignant ever she showed with all Ethiopia, nor with whatever on the Red Sea is. So he's like, there were so many snakes, Egypt better not even mess. Like, if Egypt is like, we got a lot of snakes, there were more snakes here. It's like sort of like all the tea in China thing. It's just like all the snakes in Egypt and Ethiopia and everywhere else. These were the most snakes. There's a lot of snakes. And you know, that doesn't bug me, because I like snakes. But Dante does not care for snakes, because Dante's a big ol' wuss. Among this cruel and most dismal throng, people were running naked and affrighted without hope of hole or heliotrope. So people were just running around like, oh my god, snakes! Snakes! Oh my god, snakes! They had their hands with serpent bound behind them. These riveted upon their reins the tail and head and were in front of them entwined. So, this is hard to explain. So they had these people running around and they had their hands tied behind them with snakes, like a big long snake. And the snake goes around their hands to tie their hands, comes up between their legs and goes like sort of meshes through their junk, and then kind of like bites them in the face. It's not like you're being everlastingly like tormented by a snake, like blah 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 right in your face, but also it's going between your legs and tying your hands behind your back with its body, so it's like really upsetting, I guess. And lo, at one who was upon our side there darted forth a serpent, which transfixed him where the neck is knotted to the shoulder. So this guy's like, his snake is like coming up between his legs and blah 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 blah, and then bites him like right on the neck. Nor oh so quickly ever, nor I was written, as he took fire, burned, and ashes wholly behoved it, that in falling he became, and when he on the ground was thus destroyed, the ashes drew together, and of themselves into them he instantly returned. So he's like, so then the snake bit him on the neck, and he burst into flames and turned into ashes like a phoenix, and then he rose right back up again in his, screaming in his own form again. So the snake like bit him and burned him into dust immediately, and then he reformed. Even thus by the great sages 'tis confessed the phoenix dies. Oh yeah, he does make the phoenix comparison. And then is born again when it approaches its 500th year. On herb or grain it feeds not in his life, but only on tears of incense and amomum. And nard and myrrh are its last winding sheet. So he's talking about phoenixes. And he's like, yeah, it's like the phoenix, but way worse. And as he is who falls and knows not how by force of demons who to earth down drag him, or other operation that binds man, when he arises around him looks wholly bewildered by the mighty anguish which he has suffered, and in looking sighs, such was that sinner after ever he had arisen. Yeah, this is where he decides to get trippy on us. Yeah. So basically he's like, and also that guy was like, what happened? Like, did I just get bit by a snake? Like, he's really confused about what just happened to him. It's disconcerting, to say the least. So he's like, he's not only got bit by a snake, burned into ashes, and then turned back into normal. He doesn't know what happened to him. He's just like, that was, what happened? I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure what went on there. Justice of God, oh, how severe it is that blows like these and vengeance poureth down. He was like, man, I mean, I know that God's justice is absolute and perfect and wonderful and, and always right, but this seems harsh. This seems a little more than it should be. Okay, hang on, I'm gonna put this glue away now and go get my Mod Podge. Hang on, I'll be right back. Ooh, I'm sitting on my leg and it's asleep now. Oh god, no. Oh, my leg is asleep. Oh, leg. Why, leg, why? Oh. Sorry, my leg's asleep. BRB, just looking for a brush. Making noises. Ugh, whatever. Okay. Sorry, I had to make some noises. I was sitting on my leg and it fell asleep and now it's itchy! Yeesh. So he's like, damn, God, you're crazy. I mean, like, crazy in a, yes, you are the holy light of my life, etc., and you're always right. But damn, God, you're crazy. Just, what is going on here? Like, what in your name is going on here? This is a weird scene we got going on down here, is what I'm saying. Sorry, I can't find my brush. I thought I laid out everything that I needed to work with. I seem to be missing one of my brushes. And I would like it back. I would like my brush back, please. Never mind. Come here. So frustrating. So frustrating when I can't find things I want. Alright, well, I got these other brushes. I'll be back in a few, peeps. Okay, Kale. BRB. The guide thereafter asked him who he was, whence he replied, I reigned from Tuscany a short time since into this cruel gorge. It's amazing how many people are from Italy. You'd think the entire of hell was full of Italians. But, you know, Dante just wants to stick it to everybody he knows, and I guess he doesn't know a lot of non-Italians. Oh no, can somebody come over and open this for me? My tiny, weak hands. Not in a way that girls are weak, but in a way that people with nerve damage are weak. Oh, you know what? I'll show you a trick. Check this out. Come here. This is how I get things open. I have a clamp. I will never have the grip strength of an adult woman ever again. That's what the physical therapist said, and boy was he right. When I was at home visiting, and my brother was there, and I had this exact jar of Mod Podge. I remember I had Mod Podge, and I was like, oh man, and I was like, and I couldn't even get it open with a clamp, and so I went inside and was like, paused, open this jar for me. And my brother just kind of takes it, and he's just like, pop, and then he's like, do you want me to unscrew it more? I'm like, no, that's fine, thank you. Thank you. I don't have the grip strength to open this. I need the stronger clamp. My God. Just ruined my whole damn life, I swear. Ugh. Jesus. I'm unclamping another clamp with which to open this. Folks, don't talk on your phones or text while driving. That's what this woman did, and it ruined my life. Now I can't even open jars myself. Oh no, this jar is too big for this clamp. Rubber grippy things? I do not have a rubber grippy thing. I do not, in fact, have a rubber grippy thing. Ow! Oh, that hurts. I don't have a rubber grippy thing. And it wouldn't help because this isn't just stuck, it's kind of glued closed. Which is an enormous pain in the neck. I'm trying to... Hang on, almost got it. There we go. A rubber grippy thing wouldn't help me anyways, because that's just kind of to help you get a grip on it so that you can exert a little more strength onto it. But I would need a lot of strength because my physical therapist, you know, they have one of those pressure gauges that you grasp and grip in as hard as you can, and it measures like the pounds of pressure per square inch that you're putting on it. And I went through that thing a million times with him. And I was like, how is it? Is it better now? Is it better now? He's like, you still have the grip strength of like a 10-year-old. And I was like, oh man. And he's like, you're just always going to be that way. I'm sorry. And I was just like, this blows. Need some glue solvent. I got it eventually. It's just not easy for me. It's because of nerve damage. And so like, it's very hard for me to do things like that now. Which bugs me, because it makes me look like a doof. I feel like I'm like, I'm a stupid little girl and I can't open things, you know? I'm not trying to be like that, I just can't. That's not enough grip. I use a rubber band around the lid. Yeah, I use a clamp. So anyways. So he's like, oh yeah, I'm from Tuscany. So, because apparently everybody in hell is from where you are from, because good for you. And so he says, a bestial life and not a human please me even as the mule I was. I'm Vanifucci, beast, and Pessoa was my worthy den. So he's like, I lived like an animal. I'm wondering if I'd rather have that issue than low back injury. Oh, I also have back pain. That's the thing. I also have that. And trust me, you don't want this. Like all pain is subjective, but this is, you know, like not being able to grip things is a pain in the neck. 'Cause it's not just like, ooh, I can't open jars. It's like it's hard to carry grocery bags and things of that nature. You know? Animal. Yeah. I live like an animal! And so he says, I'm Vanni Fucci, beast, and Pistoia was my den. So he like lived in Pistoia. And he said, and I unto the guide, tell him to stir not and ask what crime was thrust here below. For once a man of blood and wrath I saw him. So Dante's like, Virgil, like tell him to hang out and just like stay a while here and ask him what kind of crime he committed. I don't know why he's telling Virgil to ask him. Because he could just ask him. He's like, ask him what kind of crime he committed, because I seem to remember him being a super violent, crazy dude. And maybe he might be asking, he might be like, Virgil, I'm scared of that guy, you ask him. But, like, ask him what, like, why he's here. Like, tell him to hang out for a second. Ask him why he came here. You know, like, he's too scared to talk. It might be like Dante is acting like he's too scared to talk to the guy. Even though he's tied up with serpents, so, like, who cares, you know? Suck it up, Dante. And the sinner who had heard dissembled not, but unto me declared mind and face, and with a melancholy shame was painted. So, like, he heard him talking. He's just like, yeah, I can hear you over there. You're standing right in front of me along with Virgil. And, yeah, and he's like, I'm going to tell you the truth, and I feel really bad. You know, like, he's like, I don't feel sorry, but, you know, I feel sorry for myself. Because this, you know, the sinners in hell can't feel sorry for and repent for what they've done. It's not in their nature. So he's just like, I do feel sorry for myself. I did, you know, I feel bad I did this, but not enough to repent. So he says, it pains me more than thou hast caught me amid this misery where thou seest me than when I from the other life was taken. He's like, I am more upset that you're seeing me here now in this wretched place than I was upset at dying. What thou demandest I cannot deny, so low am I put down because I robbed the sacristy of the fair ornaments, and falsely once 'twas laid upon another. But that thou mayst not such a sight enjoy, if thou shalt ever be out of the dark places, thine ears to my announcement open here. Pistoia first of Neri groweth meagre, then Florence doth renew her men and manners. Mars draws a vapour up from Valdemagra, which is with turbid clouds enveloped round, and with impetuous and bitter tempest over Campo Pecan shall be the battle, when it shall suddenly render the mist asunder, so that each Bianco shall thereby be smitten, and this I've said that it may give thee pain. What a jerk. Oh, my hands. Sorry, so this is once again a prophecy that Dante's political party will suffer. So he's saying, you know, I stole, and in this one he says that he stole from a church. This is the circle of thieves, and he's like, yeah, I stole. And then in like in a really obscure kind of roundabout way, he kind of gives this prophecy that Dante's political party shall come to harm, and like, you know, they're going to face opposition. It's once more a way for Dante to prophesize his own exile. Which, again, he already knew was going to happen because it already happened by the time he wrote this. And he's like, and this I've said that it may give thee pain. And he's like, I'm saying all this just to hurt you. I'm not even doing it because I like giving prophecies. Like, I'm just doing it to piss you off. So he's not like, you know, it's funny because he seems kind of like downcast, you know, like Vanni Fucci. He's like, he seems like, oh, I feel terrible that I'm in this ring of thieves. Oh, it pains me more to be here than it did to die, and you know, and you know how terrible and lamentable it is that I'm here and everything. Oh, and you almost feel like he feels sorry for what he's done, but then he's like, anyways, Dante, your family and your party is going to, you know, witness a terrible rebellion against you, and you're going to be exiled. And I'm saying all this to hurt you. Like, so you're like, oh, so you are a jerk. Okay. Jerk. Okay, Canto 25. At the conclusion of his words, the thief lifted his hands aloft with both the figs, crying, "Take that, God, for at thee I aim them." Okay. So this guy, like, after he makes this big speech and tells Dante something cruel and then is like, and I'm saying this to hurt you, he then raises both his hands that are tied with snakes and flips off God and says, take that, God, for have thee I aimed them. He's like, take that, God, you know, this is meant for you, and just flips him off. From that time forth the serpents were my friends, for one entwined itself about his neck, as if to say, I will not thou speak more, and round his arm's other end rebound him, clinching itself together, so in front with them he could not a motion make. He's like, so Dante's like, and after that I kind of like the snakes more than I like this guy, because one snake went around his mouth and was like, shut up, and then another snake around his chest and like made it so he couldn't make that gesture again. Pistoa, Pistoa, why resolve not to burn thyself to ashes and so perish, since in ill doing thou thy seed excellest? So he's asking the entire city of Pistoia, he's like, Pistoia, why don't you just burn to the ground, since everybody that comes from you is terrible? Like, you're the worst city ever, why don't you just burn to the ground, because everybody in it is an awful person. He's like, since in ill doing thou thy seed excellest. He's like, your people are like the best at being sinners. Why don't you just drop dead? Through all the somber circles of this hell spirit, I saw not against God so proud, not he who fell at Thebes down from the walls. He fled away and spake no further word, and I beheld a centaur full of rage come crying out, where is he? Where is the scoffer? So he's like, man, I haven't seen anybody so rude to God in this entire trip down here. Everyone in that city is the "this is fine" meme. and that includes the guy out in the desert who was basically just screaming at God to bring it on. He's like, this guy was the rudest to God, and so he ran away. Like, not Dante, but this guy just kind of like took off. And then an angry centaur who was there to punish him comes out, and he's like, where'd that guy go? Where is that guy? I heard somebody say something bad about God, and I'm here to punish him. That's my job. Where'd he go? I do not think Maremma had so many serpents as he all along his back, as far as where our countenance begins. And he's like, and that centaur was covered in snakes. Like, he was like a Medusa centaur. Upon the shoulders just behind the nape, with wings wide open as a dragon lying, and he sets afire to all that he encounters. My master said, that one is Cacus, who beneath the rock upon Mount Aventine created oftentimes a lake of blood. He goes not on the same road with his brothers, by reason of the fraudulent theft he made of the great herd, which he had near to him, whereat his torturous actions ceased beneath the mace of Hercules, who peradventure gave him 100, and he felt not 10. So he's like, okay, so this centaur is named Cacus, and Virgil's like, oh, this guy's not up on the Phlegethon with those other centaurs, because even though he's just as wrathful as they are, he also stole Hercules' cattles, and his cattle, and Hercules avenged himself by clubbing this guy to death. And he says, the mace of Hercules, who peradventure gave him 100, and he felt not 10. Basically, he's like, this guy took like 9 blows, and then he was dead, but Hercules just went on beating him. So he hit him 9 times, and this guy died. Then he hit him 91 more times, even though he knew he was dead. He just kept beating this dead centaur because he was so mad that he took his cattle. So this centaur was condemned to the circle of thieves because he did the worst crime. You know, he committed violence like all the other centaurs who were up at the Phlegethon, but he did a worse crime, which was thievery, and so he's down here. Because Dante considers fraudulent activities to be worse than violence. So, and it's worth noting that the centaurs, you know, it seems as though they are condemned for their sins like everybody else, like all the humans. But you'll notice they still have something of a higher ranking in that they deal out punishment to others instead of suffering from it. So like the centaurs that patrol the edges of the Phlegethon and you know, shoot arrows at anybody who tries to climb out of the boiling blood, they're technically also sentenced to hell for, you know, being violent and that sort of thing. But they don't suffer as much as the others. They almost act as sort of like, you know, prison guards for the others. And it's odd. It's mostly, I guess, because he's just saying that, like, you know, hell is really intended for humans to suffer in, not centaurs or anybody else, you know. But he still puts them in there as, you know, being bad people. So, you know, like, I guess, like, maybe if they were good centaurs, they'd be serving snacks in heaven or something. Alright, back. Did I miss anything? Hey, paused! Oh, that's a scary emote. Hey, paused. How's Mom feeling? Did you go and see her? You did miss some things, Kale. You missed a guy who told Dante, who predicted Dante's family's, you know, exile yet again for like the 4th time. Just got home? Awesome. And was like, and I'm telling you all this, Dante, because I want to make you feel bad. And then the guy like raised up his hand, which was bound by snakes, and flipped God off with like both hands and yelled, "Take that, God, for thee I aimed them." And then like, you know, and the snakes were like, "Shut up," and like kind of like circled around him to keep him from doing that again, and he just ran away. And they're just like, wow, that guy was really rude. That guy was a real jerk. So then the centaur Cacus runs up and is like, okay, who blasphemed down here? I heard it. I go to bed. Ooh, that sounds interesting, Hate. Go to bed, my friend. Good night. Have fun. Have fun. So he's like, he got beaten to death by Hercules, and the first 9 blows killed him, but Hercules went on beating him until he had given him 100 blows. So he just 91 blows to a dead guy. While he was speaking thus, he had passed by, and spirits 3 have underneath us come, of which nor I was aware, nor my leader. Until that time they shouted, "Who are you?" On which account our story made a halt, and then we were intent on them alone. Yes, the Mod Podge seals the foam to prime it for a layer of Plastidip, just because I like to put Plastidip on everything because it kind of seals everything together, and then a layer of foam. You have to put Mod Podge on this like craft foam, because if you don't, paint and or even Plastidip will just soak it up like a sponge. Yeah, you beat that dead horse. Bye, Hate. Happy birthday. So then 3 other guys. Who is that? Mercy? I can't tell who that is. So he's like, yeah, I don't know what that picture is. I can't tell from here. It's too tiny on my monitor. So 3 other guys come up, and they're just like, hey you, and they yelled like, "Who are you?" at Dante, and he's just like, "Oh, I guess we're talking to this guy." Heat sealing her foam. I figured this was similar. Yeah, I don't really do heat sealing. I think maybe that might work on a different kind of foam. I don't actually know if it works on this kind of foam. She may be talking about a different kind. I just prefer it this way because I do these kind of like weird elaborate shapes where if I hit it with heat to seal it, I'm afraid it might distort it a little bit. But maybe I'll look it up and, you know, give it another shot. I remember like reading about it and trying it before and just being like, nah, I'll just use Mod Podge. I like Mod Podge. The other thing about Mod Podge, oh, she gets industrial rolls. Yeah, the other thing about Mod Podge is I don't just use it to seal. I also use it to, like, you see one of these pieces that I just put on right here. If you just like, you know, heat seal them and then paint them. Hang on, I'm trying to look at my camera right here so I can see what I'm doing. If you just heat seal them and paint them, you'll be able to see these, you know, sharp gaps in between the pieces. And I always kind of wanted the piece to look like it's one piece, all you know, cut from like whatever, like the same metal or whatever. If I was going to paint this gold or, you know, paint it to look like metal. So when I go in here, you know, with the Mod Podge, I kind of get into, you know, the little crevices right here, kind of smoosh it in. So that by smooshing it in and letting it harden and then covering it with Plastidip, it all kind of looks like it's sealed into one piece. It kind of gets inside those cracks right there and smooths it out so it doesn't look like it's just 2 pieces glued together and then painted. You just like saying Mod Podge. I actually don't, because I keep stumbling over it and saying Mod Podge. It should be called Mod Podge. It's easier to say. Alright, so these 3 guys ran up and were like, "Hey, who are you?" to Dante, and Dante's like, "Oh, I guess we're talking to these guys now. I did not know them, but it came to pass, as it is wont to happen by some chance, that one to name the other was compelled, exclaiming, 'Where can Cianfa have remained?'" Cianfa or Cianfa? Cianfa? Maybe it's Cianfa. Anyways, whence I? So they're like, hey, there was another guy that we were looking for, some other sinner, you know, and like, where did he go? Like, he kind of fell behind. We were walking along, and you know, and he was with us, and he's not here anymore. Do you know where he is? Whence I, so that the leader might attend, upward from chin to nose my finger laid. So, he's he kind of like made a signal to Virgil, like tapping his nose, like, hey, check this out, you know, like, he's like, I'm about to, you know, like, I'm gonna say something here. He's kind of just making a weird gesture, like tapping his nose, like knowingly, and at Virgil, and I'm not exactly certain what he means by that, like, or like he knows Cianfa, like he knows the guy that they're looking for, and he's like, hey, psst, hey, like he's giving him a signal, like, I think I know that guy. I don't exactly know what this gesture means. I do not prequel meme well. But yeah, he's making a weird gesture, like, hey, and I don't know exactly what he means by that, although he may mean simply like he's making a gesture to Virgil, like, hey, that guy he just mentioned, like, I know that guy. I'm not exactly I don't know. I have to go look at an analysis. I've never really understood that. I don't know what he's doing. If thou art, reader, slow now to believe what I shall say, it will no marvel be, for I who saw it hardly can admit it. So he's like, okay, so you're not going to believe this, but I hardly believe it either. It's crazy what happened just now. And I'm going to tell you. Podmodge. As I was beholding, raised on them my brows, behold, a serpent with 6 feet darts forth in front of one and fastens wholly onto them. He's like, so this like 6-footed lizard comes out of nowhere and just jumps on one guy and like bites him. You know, he fastens himself onto one of those guys. With middle feet it bound him round the paunch, and with the forward ones his arms it seized, and then thrusteth its teeth through one cheek and the other. Oof, my god. So, this lizard jumped on like the stomach of this one sinner, and clamped onto him at the stomach, and then shoved its, like, I guess, like, it bit his face so that his teeth went through one cheek of the guy and the other, so he's just kind of, like, face-hugging him with his mouth. The hindermost it stretched upon his thighs, and put its tail through in between the two, and up behind along the reins outspread it. So basically, the lizard just, like, jumped up on this guy really fast, and, like, and clamped, you know, like, bit his face, and, like, held it there, and then, like, twisted up his tail, like, through the guy, like, you know, like under his legs and around his legs and through his legs and into the guy's body. He's basically, like, melding with the guy in, like, a really bizarre way. Ivy was never fastened by its barbs upon a tree so as this horrible reptile upon the other's limbs entwined his own. He's just, like, glomming onto this guy and wrapping around him. Then they stuck close as if of heated wax they had been made, and intermixed their color. Nor one nor other seemed now what he was, even as proceedeth on before the flame upward along the paper a brown color, which is not yet black as the white dyes. He's like, so they kind of started, like, melding together in a really weird way, and, like, I couldn't tell where one began and one ended, and it was, like, super weird. The other two looked on, and each of them cried out, O me, Agnello, how thou changest! Behold, thou now art neither two nor one. So the other guys were like, oh my god, Agnello, like, you're turning into something, you're becoming part lizard, or the lizard's becoming part you, I can't really tell. Already the two heads had become one, when there appeared to us two figures mingled into one face, wherein the two were lost. Of the four limbs were fashioned the two arms, the thighs and legs, the belly and the chest, members became that never were yet seen. So it's becoming like a weird body horror of these, like, this lizard and man kind of melding together. Every original aspect there was cancelled too, and yet one did the perverted image appear, and such departed with slow pace, even as a lizard under the great scourge of days canicular, exchanging hedge, lightning appeareth if the road it crossed. Thus did appear, coming towards the bellies of the two others, a small fiery serpent, livid and black as is a peppercorn. So they're like, okay, so, like, that lizard just, like, oh my god, it melded, it's like it melded with that guy, like hot wax melding together, and overtook his body. And the other two sinners just start mocking him. They're like, oh my god, dude, you look like crap. Now you're part lizard, you idiot. And then, after that has happened, like another creature comes up. And so it's like it's like a small, it's hard to, it's kind of like, it says a small fiery serpent, livid and black as a peppercorn. So like a little small kind of lizardy monster thing, and fiery. And in that part where Attis first received our aliment, one of them transfixed, then downward fell in front of him extended. So this monster jumps up to one of the remaining sinners and bites him on the belly button and just sticks there, like just hanging down, like biting him in the stomach. The one transfixed looked at it, but said not. Nay, rather with feet motionless, he yawned, just as if sleep or fever had assailed him. So the guy looks down, but he's not freaking out. He's just like, suddenly I'm so sleepy. I don't understand what's going on. He at the serpent gazed, and it at him, so he's just looking at it, and it's looking at him. One through the wound, the other through the mouth, smoked violently, and the smoke commingled. Henceforth be silent, Lucan, where he mentions wretched Sibelius and Nasidius, and wait to hear what now will be shot forth. And he's like, so he's just looking at this lizard hanging off his stomach, and it's staring at him, and he's staring it in, and they both start smoking. And okay, so famous poet Lucan, the guy I met up in Limbo and everything, like, you know how you wrote about, like, wretched things happening to people in, like, famous stories? Shut up about that, because you are not even gonna believe what happened now. Like, he's telling the famous Lucan, who, like, basically, like, he's one of the poets that, you know, who was mightily, you know, worshipped by poets at the time, like Virgil, or Ovid, or Homer. And he met him up in Limbo and was like, oh my god, I'm so honored to be in your place. And now he's basically thinly saying, like, you know, like, shut up, dude. You thought you wrote a scary story about weird stuff happening. Dig this. I'm about to top it. You know, like, just shut up about your story, because I'm going to top the crap out of that. So it's like, yeah, you really respect him. You respect him so much, you're like, I'm about to do one better. Like, so don't even tell your story, because this is about to be better and worse than that, like scarier than that story. So it's just like, yeah, you really show them high regard, don't you? Ass. Dante's constantly talking up his own poetry in this. You know, he just has these subtle things where everybody tells him how great his poetry is. Like, you know, Sarah Brunetto was like, oh man, if I was still alive, I'd be telling everybody how good your poetry is, dude. And he's like, yeah, I know. And, you know, and the famous poets of old were like, oh, you should totally join us because you're just as good as all the most famous and celebrated poets of old. You're our buddy now because you're such a good poet, like, just like us. And he's like, yeah, I know. And in this one, he was just like, yeah, Lucan, that famous poet who wrote, like, really scary stuff, back off, scrub, because I'm about to, like, totally blow your mind with this. I'm going to top you in every way. God damn, Dante. And then he says, be silent, Ovid of Cadmus and Arethusa, for if to him a snake her to a fountain converts he babbling, that I grudge him not. Then he tells Ovid to shut up. He's like, Ovid, yeah, this is gonna top that other story that you wrote. Like, everybody who's like a better poet than me and super famous, shut up, because this is gonna top all you guys. This is, and he's trying to say it like, oh, it's so much worse than the thing that you mentioned. Like, oh man, your famous poem about how scary it was, this is even scarier than that, this thing that happened to me. But he's kind of subtly saying, like, shut up, I'm about to totally top you. And ass. So this guy is staring at this little tiny dragon hanging off, like, biting him on the belly button and hanging off of him, and he's just staring at it like it's almost like it's kind of tranquilized him. He's not like freaking out, he's just staring at it and it's staring at him. Because two natures never front to front has he transmuted so that both the forms to interchange their matter ready were. Together they responded in such wise that to a fork the serpent cleft his tail, and eke the wounded drew his feet together. The legs together with the thighs themselves adhered so that in little time the juncture no sign whatever made that was apparent. He with the cloven tail assumed the figure the other was losing, and his skin became elastic and the other's hard. I saw the arms drawn inward at the armpits, and both feet of the reptile that were short lengthened as much as those contracted were. Thereafter the hind feet together twisted became the member that a man conceals, and of his own the wretch had two created, while both of them the exhalation veils with a new color and engenders hair on one and depilates the other. The one arose and down the other fell, though not turning away their impious lamps, beneath which each one his muzzle changed. He who was standing drew it towards the temples, and from excess of matter which came thither issued the ears from out the hollow cheeks. What did not backward run and was retained of that excess made to the face a nose, and the lips thickened far as was befitting. Oh my god, this is a really long description. He who lay prostrate thrusts his muscle forward, and backward draws the ears into his head in the same manner as the snail its horns. And so the tongue, which was entire and apt for speech before, is cleft, and the biforked in the other closes up, and the smoke seizes. So, what he says in a long, weird body horror kind of way is, this little lizard snaky monster bit this guy on the belly button, and instead of freaking out, he acted like he was sort of drugged and kind of looked at the thing, and then they changed into each other. The lizard turned into, like, slowly turned into the man, and the man slowly turned into the lizard. The lizard stole the other man's body, basically. He stole his form, his look. And the man was forced to take the body of the lizard. And this is, because this is the circle of thieves, they only have one thing left to them in hell, which is their form, the way they look. They don't have a body, but they have, like, their shades look like how they used to look in life. So they go around stealing each other's forms all the time. It's like, got your face! No, my face! And so, like, this lizard runs up and steals his face and his body and, like, how he looks, and then he's forced to look like the snake. And that's basically all they apparently do down here, other than getting bit by snakes all day, is steal each other's forms, because that's all they have left. Welp. Yeah, that was kind of a welp moment. That was a weird Junji Ito kind of thing. The soul, which to a reptile had been changed, along the valley hissing takes to flight, and after him the other speaking sputters. Then did he turn upon him his new shoulders, and said to the other, I'll have Buoso run, crawling as I have done, along this road. So, what he's saying, basically, is the reptile that just stole this guy's, look, the other guy turned into the shape of the reptile, and he ran away. And then this guy, who was the lizard and bit the guy and suddenly now has his face and, and his body, turned to the remaining sinner and was like, now let Buoso run around a while and I'll use his face. So apparently that lizard that bit him was not some supernatural creature sent to punish him. It was another sinner who had lately been turned into a lizard by somebody else who stole his face. And so this lizard ran up and stole that guy's face and was like, there, now you run around on the ground like a lizard and I'll use your face. It's like, so they just go around biting each other and stealing each other's forms all day long. Which you gotta admit is kind of hardcore. Yeah, as Caddis says, welp. That certainly was the thing that happened. Well, that happened. In this way I beheld the seventh ballast shift and reshift, and here be my excuse, the novelty of aught my pen transgress. And so he's just like, Dante at this point is just like, I don't even with this. This is nuts. Like, this is just nuts. Just guys turning each other into lizards over and over down here and stealing each other's looks. And notwithstanding that mine eyes might be somewhat bewildered and my mind dismayed, they could not flee away so secretly, but that I plainly saw Puccio Scancado, and he it was who stole of 3 companions, which came in the beginning was not changed. The other was he whom thou Gavil weepest. So he's just mentioning other people who were also thieves. And he's just like, by the way, before we left this place, I spied that other guy that I think is a huge thief, and I'm just name-dropping him. Should not have eaten those shrooms, Dante. Seriously, this is just a major... Virgil's just standing there they're like, oh my god, I hate this place the most. I hate coming down here. It's the weird snake-biting lizard realm. When does Kratos come in? No, you're thinking of the Kratos ripoff, Dante from the video game Dante's Inferno. You know what bugs me? Is in that game, they more or less pretty much stuck to all the correct punishments, more or less, for most of the sinners and everything, but when they got to the Malabulge, they didn't show any of these specific punishments. They just went, they didn't even, show them really crossing over the Malabulge. You just kept stepping on, little platforms and then having timed things where, you had, a 2-minute timed fight where you had to, execute different things defeat enemy without jumping, or defeat enemy without using sword, or defeat enemy in under a minute. And then the voiceover was just Beatrice telling them what each of the circles was for. Like, here are the Simonists, and here are the thieves. And I was like, oh, come on, we don't get to see the snakes that bite people and turn into them, and then they have to go bite somebody else and turn them into a snake? Boo! Like, that's my favorite part. So, oh, let me rest my voice just for a moment. Well, I didn't play it pause, but I watched a Let's Play of it. And, you know, the entire plot they got wrong between, you know, Beatrice and everybody else, but they used, I mentioned that all of Virgil's quotes in the game were taken almost completely verbatim from a translation of Dante's Inferno, which I was pleased to see. I like that. They completely redid the punishment for wasters and misers. But I guess, like, people shoving rocks into each other in some sort of dangerous game of bumper car wasn't as interesting. So they just boiled people in gold instead. But they kept a lot of quotes. Like, they clearly actually read the Inferno. And I was kind of pleased by that. Although they left out the part where Dante is constantly leaping into Virgil's arms because he suspiciously loves him more than Beatrice. Oh my god, I would have played that game if it was, like, instead of, like, this Kratos knockoff in his, you know, Crusader armor, if it was just Dante. like just Dante, like, the way we read him in the story, and, like, or, like, Virgil was like, now, Dante, you must save Beatrice from the devil. He's like, okay, but first, do you and I just want to hang? Let's go get some ice cream. I love you so much. I would play that game if it was like that. I would also play it if Beer Crow and Donuts were in it. Look at them. I love them so much. I love my precious little Beer Crow and Donuts. Monty and Donuts rad hellcation. Look at it, he's just got like the little hat and cowl. I totally want to draw this now. Like, I absolutely want to draw this. Oh man. Like they look down into a circle of the Malabulge, and he's like, behold, Monopolis, for here lieth those who are an affront to both God and nature. This is the circle of wusses. And he looks in, and Teebs is just at the bottom of the dish, and he's just like, hey, waves, and Donuts is like, hey, I know that guy. And he's like, yeah, you know everybody down here. I love how Beerco looks in that art. It's so noble. He does. Well, like Monty has this, I don't know, he's got this gravitas about him that, like, no matter what you put him in, even when he was in that holiday sweater, he just looks really dignified. Nice. Like, he just looks like, you know, he's like, behold, and I will show thee the nether realm. And Donuts is like, wait, should I have put pants on? And he's like, no, not that nether realm, you idiot. I want Donuts to just turn with that smile on his face, and still wearing his sunglasses, and just be like, I'm scared, Monty, hold me. Can you carry me through this part? And he's like, no, you have legs, use them. I don't even have arms, I can't carry you. And he's like, carry me, Monty. Monty, carry me. Monty, carry me. He just gets up on his back. You're so big and strong. And he's like, Monopolis, please. I think his famous phrase is just Monopolis, please. Don't do this. Because he always calls him Monopolis, he doesn't call him Donuts. They call each other Monopolis and Monty because they're friends, so they're on speaking terms, like first name speaking terms. But I love it, he just starts, he's like, I'm fainting, Monty, catch me, Monty, I'm fainting, because it's lame down here. He's like, I'm not going to catch you, and he's like, swoon. And then I thought that when I was drawing him, I was like, oh wait, I drew him with his sunglasses. And I'm like, no, he would have his sunglasses on, because he's in hell. And Donuts always wears his sunglasses inside. But he doesn't wear them when he's outside. He only wears them inside. Oh, Donuts. Oh. I'm finishing my snack. This is a new Sweetina crown that I'm making to put over my giant Sweetina hair bun. Alright. Man, sorry. I'm trying to chew as fast as I can. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm just really hungry. I woke up really late, and I had to, like, 10 minutes before I had to stream, I had to run out and pick up some paint from Home Depot, and then just go swing by the store really fast and buy something to eat, because I didn't have anything. And then I took, like, 3 bites of it when I was starting to stream. So, but it's sacred pepperoni, so it's okay. Okay, so Canto 26. Rejoice, O Florence, since thou art so great that over sea and land thou beatest thy wings, and throughout hell thy name is spread abroad. Among the thieves 5 citizens of thine like these I found, whence shame comes unto me, and thou thereby to no great honor risest. So he's like, boy, you better feel good about yourself, Florence. You're so famous, especially in hell, because there's so many Florentines down here. Because Dante has a lot of civic pride. And back then, like, having pride in your city was like being, like, you know, like a fan of your favorite football team. You were really into it. Like, really into it. And you had rivalries with other cities. Just 'cause that's the way it's always been, you know? Sort of like, you know, the Yankees hate the Red Sox, and the Phillies hate everybody. It's, you know, it's, you just, you know, and the Eagles hate everybody. Look, we just hate everybody in Philly. But, you know, you'd have rival cities and everything, and, like, you'd be really, really into it. So the way that you would see people get nuts about sports nowadays, where they're like, oh my god, you're a Cowboys fan? Oh my god, I'm gonna have a bar fight with you! Like, they were like that with their cities. And, glad I'm not the only one that likes to sleep in. No, I worked, I worked, like, until, like, all night and up until, like, 2 in the afternoon. I wanted to sleep earlier, but my mom was sick in the hospital, and I was so worried about her and stressed that I couldn't get any sleep. Like, I wanted to go to sleep, and I was just like, I can't sleep, I can't, until I hear back. And then finally, my brother, like, you know, he got back to me about it, and I was like, oh, I'm so relieved. And so finally I got, like, you know, a couple, you know, like 6 hours of sleep or something. But I usually wake up, you know, in the afternoon-ish, and then work until, like, dawn or something. That's just my time. So Dante is super, super, you know, like, into defending Florence, you know, probably on Earth. But he's also really mad at Florence because he feels that it's just become, like, really corrupt and full of sinners. And, oh, look at all those little emotes. And you know, he's just very angry about it. Oh, that reminds me. Bing. There, gotta get our Plinko in there. My little polka dot glove, as somebody said. Boop. And, I work better at late night, so I go between 3 and 6 a.m. Yeah, me too. It's Philly. Yeah, we just hate everybody. And so, yeah, we're just kind of, like, we're just kind of, Philly is just kind of, we're at war with the world. We're at war with the world. Philly cry, smack face. Philly headshot, Philly cry, smack face. Nice. Yeah, we're not bad people. We just hate the idea that places other than Philadelphia exist. So if you come to visit, don't mention any of them because it just makes us really mad. So like, Dante loves Florence and he loves his city, but he's also really pissed off and disappointed in his city because he sees it as being really corrupt. So he constantly, throughout his Inferno, takes shots at people in Florence or people in Italy, but especially in Florence, and tries to point out the hypocrisy that he sees and the corruption and everything else. Don't even get started on NJ. We hate everything, you know? So, he's saying here, he's just like, well, congratulations, Florence, you're famous everywhere. You're especially famous in hell since so many of your citizens are down there. And he's like, among the thieves 5 citizens of thine like these I found. He's like, yeah, I found 5. I found 5 Florentines in the circle of thieves, just like, super quick, you know? Whence shame comes unto me, and thou thereby to no great honor risest. And he's like, and it's just embarrassing to me as a Florentine, and you're not doing yourself any great honors by being represented such way, you know? But if when morn is near our dreams are true, feel shalt thou in a little time from now what Prato, if none other, craves for thee. He's like, you know, he's like, but maybe, you know, in the future, things'll get, like, worse, you know, like, there's gonna be, he's just kind of like, there's gonna be a reckoning for this, you know, there's gonna be, like a a mourning for it. He's like, and if it were now, it were not too soon, would that it were, seeing it must needs be, for 'twill aggrieve me more the more I age. So he's like, there's gonna be a reckoning, and it was crowded. Then again, I was there because of the Markiplier show. And we just have a lot of people. So, and it's just like, it's, oh no, the bits, oh no. I didn't even notice them going in, but thank you, Kyoshine! Thank you for the bits! I will not share them with anybody else from Philly. I will avenge you. I will use them on stupid things. I promise. Like rent. So he's just like, there's gonna be a day of reckoning for Florence. Like, we're all gonna have a day of mourning, like a bad period that we're gonna have to go through as, like, you know, recompense for being so led astray as a city. And he's like, and honestly, that day can't come soon enough for me. You know? Oh, Kyoshine is number 2. Nice. Ooh, number 2 rank for bits. Nice. Good job. And he's just like, that day is gonna come, and you know what? I say none too soon. He's kind of like, you know, he's kind of like a parent who, he loves his kid, but that kid is doing really bad, and he wants to see the child, he doesn't want the child to be punished, but he wants to see it go through some kind of punishment or period of mourning so that it will come out a better person. You know, so it will learn from its mistake. And he's like, and I wish that day would come soon. He's kind of prophesizing that this will happen. And he's like, and I wish that day were soon now, because the more it gets put off, the older I am, the more I'm going to be upset by it when I'm older. You know, it's just going to feel worse when I'm older when it happens. So, you know, I'm number 218. Nice. So, you know, so he's just mad at Florence, basically. Big shock. We went our way, and up along the stairs the Borns had made us to descend before, remounted my conductor and drew me, and following the solitary path among the rocks and ridges of the crag, the foot without the hand sped not at all. So he's just like, Virgil is just like kind of carefully leading Dante where they're going next. Then sorrowed I, and sorrow now again, when I direct my mind to what I saw, and more my genius curbed than I am wont, that it may run not unless virtue guide it, so that if some good star or better thing have given me good, I may myself not grudge it. So he's like, and I saw something that made me really sad, and I'm still sad when I think about it now. And he's like, I don't want to think about it, and unless, you know, he's just like, it's hard to explain. He's like, I don't want to think about it, lest I, you know, my mind kind of run away with me and I think impiously of it. You know, I hope that my thoughts will guide, well, like virtue will guide my thoughts. And he's basically just bummed, basically. He's like, I don't even want to think about this, but, you know, it kind of makes me feel, you know, when, you know, remember the good things that have happened to me and not kind of take them for granted. He's learning a lesson from what he saw, is what he said. As many the hind who on the hill rested the time when he who lights the world his countenance keeps least concealed from us, while as the fly gives place unto the gnat seeth the glowworms down among the valley, perchance there where he plows and makes his with flames as manifold resplendent all was the eighth Bolgia, and as I grew aware, as soon as I was where the depth appeared. He's like, so it's really dark down there, it's super dark in the eighth, like this one little eighth little circle of the Bolgia. It's super, super dark, but there's like a bunch of little like bright flames in the darkness, and I could see them all like tiny little flames lit up. And such as he who with the bears avenged him beheld Elijah's chariot at departing, what time the steeds to heaven erect uprose, for with his eye he could not follow it, so as to see aught else than flame alone, even as a little cloud ascending upward. Thus each along the gorge of the entrenchment was moving, for not one reveals the theft, and every flame a sinner steals away. So it's like, you know, each little light was very bright, and he's leaning to look into the chasm, and he's so dazzled by the light that he almost falls in. And because he says, I stood upon the bridge uprisen to see, so that if I had not seized upon a rock, down I had fallen without being pushed. So he's like, it's really bright down there, and I'm trying to see all the little lights as they're like going along, because they're kind of like moving. And he's like, I can't see like who's carrying the lights. They're just little lights. Don't go towards the light! Well, don't fall into it! Virgil's just catching him by the seat of his pants. Dante! Dante, stop. But it's so pretty. Dante, don't. Dante, honey, look at me. Stay next to mommy. Don't lean over the railing. If all your friends were named Clip, would you jump off them? No, and the leader, who behind me was so attent, exclaimed, "Within the fires the spirits are, each swathes himself with that wherewith he burns." He's like, so if you're looking for the sinners that are down in here, they're all inside these little flames. Each flame contains the soul of a sinner. "My master," I replied, "by hearing thee I am more sure, but I surmised already it might be so, and already wished to ask thee, who is within that fire which comes so cleft at top, it seems uprising from the pyre, where 'twas Eteocles with his brother placed." And Dante's like, I already knew that. Like, I already guessed. But also, I wanted to ask you, there's like this twin flame. It's like a flame with like two little horns of flame coming off of it, and it's much brighter. And I wanted to ask you, like, who's that? Like, who's in that one? And Dante has a theme where he always seems to pick like a chief sinner among each circle that he goes to. Like, one person is more guilty than everybody else, and he points them out. Like that guy who was staked to the ground and was being walked over by the hypocrites. He was like the chief sinner. And this and that and that. He not all the time, but he often picks out one person that he especially wants to point out is really bad. And this apparently is that. He answered me, "Within there are tormented Ulysses and Diomed, and thus together they unto vengeance run as unto wrath. And there within their flame do they lament the ambush of the horse which made the door whence issued forth the Roman's gentle steed." So, he's like, which of these these two-pronged flame? He's like, oh, those are two guys in there. One of them's Ulysses, and one of them is Diomed. Diomed. And they did the ambush of the Trojan horse. Hey, Bazooka 419, what's up? We're doing a little cosplay work and translating Dante's Inferno, which is a hilarious fan fiction that for some reason kids in literature class have to read. It's kind of like if 800 years from now somebody had to read somebody's crappy self-insert Lord of the Rings fan fiction in English class, and they're like, oh, I hate this stuffed shirt literature, so boring. And yeah, that's basically what this is. Dante's Inferno is my favorite fan fiction, where Dante writes about how he gets to meet all his heroes, and his like biggest hero ever, Virgil the poet, is like totally thinks he's his best friend and likes him the most and saves him from all this stuff, and they have a crazy adventure together, and all of Dante's enemies that he hates are all in hell and burning, and this girl that he never spoke 2 words to in real life but had a crush on secretly loves him and is in heaven and worries about him all the time. Now, they'll be reading Twilight fan fiction in 200 years. Lots of cosplay over here. I'm on to paint. Nice. Yeah, I'm working on I have a little photo shoot tomorrow, so I'm just working on a couple little things. But we're doing a dual Dante's Inferno translation and foam work. You know this well. Yes, Dante's Inferno is one of my favorite things. We've been having a blast with this because, like, once you get past the these and the thous and the thou arts, it's actually really kind of hilarious. And it's just kind of goofy how much Dante, he's just like, and then I was the king of the world, and like, I was the most special human ever because no human had ever gone on this trip like me and lived. And, you know, it's basically like, imagine if Dante wrote a bunch of Harry Potter fan fiction where he was like, and I turned out to be the most wonderful wizard in the whole world, and I was a muggle, but I could do magic, and also I got sorted into every house, which nobody had ever done before, and also, you know, like, and I was best friends with all the famous characters in the book that I really love, and you know, the girl that I had the crush on in the book the most, like, secretly loved me too. Like, it's basically that. It's basically that. It's like a dumb fan fiction, but, you know, and yet kids get taught it in school these days. Like, it's a, you know, they're like, we're gonna read Dante's Inferno. Oh, that boring Shakespeare-y book. No, it's not boring. It's hilarious. You're working on a Bowser. Nice. Where are you gonna wear it? I'm actually a comic book artist. Like, as my job. And so I'm making a little crown right now because I figured I would do, like, a little side photo shoot with one of my characters from my comic named Sweetina. Because I figured I would get some pictures of it, and it might be, like, fun to put it in the back of one of the issues as, like, an extra thing. A Bowser, man, that's... How are you gonna make the shell with, like, the spikes and everything on it? I saw one person who used those pointy paper cups and, like, Mod Podged them on as big spikes. And I was like, that's clever, dude. That's really clever. I did that once for a mace. I got those paper cups from Home Depot that have the points on the bottom. And we just Mod Podged them on. Calgary Comic Con. Oh, no way! Wait. Is that different from Calgary Expo? I know that everybody's changing their... Except he also inserts his real-life crush into the story to fall in love with him. Yeah, basically. Oh, it's done. Just painting. I know that some cons are changing their name to, like, such and such Comic Con. Is that the same as Calgary Expo? Because I was a guest at Calgary Expo once. I remember it. It was a good con. You know what? I sold stuff in the Artist Alley, and it was great selling stuff in Canada in the Artist Alley, because when you put out, like, a little tip jar, that people would put coins in it, and you guys have, like, dollar coins up there, so people were much more likely to tip me with dollars than they were, like, down here with, like, nickels and stuff. It was rad. I was like, man, I want to sell in Canada all the time. Because, like, when people would throw tips, you know, they'd have, like, sometimes much higher denominations of coins mixed in. Down here, it's like, you know, people don't want to throw a paper dollar in because they're like, oh, that's money. I'll just tip them with, like, you know, 20 cents or whatever. Loonies and woonies. It's the same con. Yeah. $2 coins. That's what it was. $2 coins. That's big. That's big. But yeah, I was a guest there once. I have a, where's that book? They did, like, a Calgary, hang on, I'll find it. It's around here somewhere. I'm in the book. Let me take a look here. Calgary Comic-Con. Calgary. Oh, wait, you know what? Shoot. No, I'm a jerk. I put that book in storage. Oh, well. Well, they had, like, a Calgary Comic-Con Expo, like, commemorative book, because I guess it was, like, the anniversary or something of the con, and they had all the artists, all the guest artists do a picture for the book, and I did one. It was nice. I liked it up there. Everybody in Canada is very polite. So, let's see here. So, Ulysses and Diomed were the guys, you know, that Dante holds responsible for the Trojan horse, which he, you know, a lot of people define as like a, you know, a brilliant military tactic. He defines it as a fraud, and, you know, he doesn't like it. So he puts them down here in the circles of the fraudulent, and he, well, here, I'm getting ahead of myself. And there within their flame do they lament the ambush of the horse, Trojan horse, which made the door whence issued forth the Romans' gentle seed. Therein is wept the craft, for which being dead, Deidamia still deplores Achilles, and pain for the Palladium there is born. So Dante really, really, really respects and worships the Romans. And so, of course, he would not like the deception of the Trojan horse. And he thought it was, you know, dishonorable and fraudulent and blah, 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 blah. I think it's great. You build a giant horse and make your enemies take it inside as a gift. That's amazing. But he did not like it because it was against the Romans. And, you know, he's way into Romans and stuff. He thought Caesar was so great. And I know how you feel about that, Caddis. And so he's like, okay, they're in here for 3 sins. The Trojan horse, which I don't like, and the weeping of Deidamia, the king's daughter, whom Achilles abandoned. Like, he basically kind of, like, broke her heart, and she died of grief and that sort of thing. And then also the theft of Pallas Athena's statue at the Palladium. And we should all just totally stab Caesar! Rome fanboy. He was a Rome fanboy. He was. You know? He was, like, super fanboy to Rome. He's like, Rome is the greatest! Rome is the greatest! I'm Italian, I love Rome. And so he's like, oh, how dare you, Ulysses! You tricked the Romans, those gentle Romans! And he's just like, oh, shut up. It was great. It's like, you gotta give it up for that, Dante. It was a giant horse. Come on. It was full of guys. It was hilarious. It was like an angry piñata full of soldiers. It was fantastic. It was a great idea. Don't even start with me. So, if they within those sparks possess the power to speak, I said, the master, much I pray and repray that the prayer be worth 1,000, that thou make no denial of awaiting until the horn flame shall hither come. Thou seest that with desire I lean towards it. He's like, I really, really want to go talk to those guys. Even though I hate them, I want to go talk to those guys. Dante was a freaking nerd about so many things. He was a nerd about so many things. He was a nerd about Rome, he was a nerd about Virgil and other poets, and he was a nerd about being Milady, Fedora, tip and sniff your hair to Beatrice, and, you know, oh, she's the beautiful, beautiful light of my life. Have you ever spoken one word to her? No, I only saw her twice, but she's as heavenly as an angel, and she's like the Virgin Mary on steroids. She's incredible. She's wonderful. She's meant to be mine. Okay, well, she's married to another guy. She doesn't know your name. It doesn't matter. It's courtly love. I'm not like that big, dumb, brute jerk she married and happily had a bunch of kids with. I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. I deserve her. I'm gonna write a fan fiction where she's in heaven, and she loves me so much, and she's so worried about me. My God, Dante was an enormous nerd. Like I said before, if Dante could have had like a wall scroll of something Roman and a body pillow with Beatrice on one side and like the Pope on the other, he absolutely would have had it. You want to rub it in their faces how cool I am. Yeah, he's basically like, call them over here. I think what they did the Romans is like so wrong. Like, what do you care about the Romans? Like, it's like somebody nowadays just being like, I despise what was done to the Japanese in this, you know, like one thing in like the 15th century. And he's just like, what the hell do you care? You're not even Japanese. You're from Chicago. Well, I just identify with that culture so much. He's like a weeaboo for Roman stuff, basically. And I'm a weeaboo for a lot of things, but not Roman stuff. But he was like nerdy obsessed with Roman stuff. But not in an academic way. He just thought they were so cool. You know, if Troy didn't fall then, according to Virgil's stories, there wouldn't have been a Rome. Doesn't matter. Like, you can't argue with Dante. And if you do, he just writes a crappy fan fiction about how you're in hell and you're a bad person. Even if you're somehow not dead, as we will see in Lake Cocytus coming up here. Me, I prefer Catullus. Dante pushes me off a cliff. No, you're just wrong. If Dante were alive right now, he'd be on Reddit having, like, starting and answering thousands of angry threads about all of his dumb fandoms. Rome would be on there, Virgil would be on there. If you said that, like, something bad about Virgil, he's just like, you know, I heard he was not nice to his wife or whatever, he'd be like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. And we have to read his stupid fan fiction in literature class. I can't stand it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I had to read this in high school, and, like, even back then, I was like, this is hysterical. Back then, we didn't have the internet. We didn't even know what fan fiction was. You know? It was like we had just gotten the internet. We were just finding out what a browser was. There was no word for fan fiction, so, it just became funnier to me over time. It's fantastic. So he's like, oh, I need to go talk to those guys, Virgil. Bring them over. I want to go be a jerk to them. Here's you talking Shinola about Virgil. Like the fact that he's a plagiarist, mayhaps? Oh, dude, you would be damned to the circle of people who are super wrong for saying that to Dante. I damn thee to the circle of big stupid jerks who should be banned from Reddit for having terrible wrong opinions. Or maybe the fraudulent, I guess, because he'd call you a liar. Who knows? So, and he to me, worthy is thy entreaty of much applause, and therefore I accept it. But take heed that thy tongue restrain itself. Leave me to speak, because I have conceived that which thou wishest, for they might disdain perchance, since they were Greeks, discourse of thine. Oh no, not the heck basement. The heck basement? Somebody clip that quote and put it in Discord for me for chat quotes later. Thank you. So he's like, oh, what a good idea, Dante, like patting him on the head, like, much applause for that idea. And to the hide cellar, to wake up shrieking about the hide cellar. And he's like, but let me talk to them, okay? Because, you know, they're Greeks and you're Italian, and they might not actually want to talk to you. Okay, like, I will talk to them. They might scorn your manner of speaking, you know. As it were. Mm-hmm. When now the flame had come up unto that point, where to my leader it seemed time and place, after this fashion did I hear him speak. Which makes no sense, because, like, they all seem to be speaking one language, and Dante can understand them. But, doesn't matter, whatever. I think Virgil was just like, well, they're Greek, they may not want to talk to an Italian, let me talk to them. And what he really meant was, well, they're Greek and they don't want to talk to a nerd. Let me talk to them. You'll probably just piss him off. You'll probably just start crying and screaming, like, how could you betray the beautiful Romans? I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Let me just go talk to them like an adult. Me calling him a nerd echoing throughout the caverns for eternity. I would be like, you know, like laying down on the burning plains, raining down by fire. I don't care if I am burned for eternity, Dante. I'm calling you a nerd. You are not a Chad. Say it. Say I'm a Chad. No, I will never admit it. You'll run out of fire before I run out of ways to say you're not a Chad. Oh, God. Beatrice never liked you. O ye who are twofold within one fire, if I deserved of you while I was living, if I deserved of you, or much or little, when in the world I wrote the lofty verses, do not move on, but one of you declare whither, being lost, he went away to die. So he's like, hey, you Greeks over there, I wrote about you, you know, like, you know, so I feel like, you know, on that accord, you should stay here and talk to me. And, got him. You should seriously get this published. Wait, how did the Greeks betray the Romans if they didn't exist yet? It's not important, Caddis. What's important is that Rome got shamed. Somehow. Anyways, God. Then of the antique flame the greater horn, murmuring, began to wave itself about, even as a flame doth which the wind fatigues. So the bigger flame on this twin horn of flame started like wiggling around like a flame, or like a flame in the wind. I'm kink-shaming Dante. Thereafterward the summit to and fro, moving as it were the tongue of that spake, it uttered forth a voice and said, when I from Circe had departed, who concealed me more than a year there near unto Gaeta, or ever yet Aeneas named it so. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by your comments. Nor fondness for my son, nor reverence for my old father, nor the due affection which joyous should have made Penelope, could overcome within me the desire I had to be experienced of the world and of the vice and virtue of mankind, but I put forth on the high open sea with one sole ship and that small company by which I never had deserted been. So he's like, tell me about your life. And he's like, okay, well, you know, I lived here and you know, I really, you know, like I loved my son and everything and my dad and my wife and all that and everything, but none of it like mattered to me so much as I just wanted to go out and see the world. I wrote about you, as in I took a book written by an author of your culture and roamed it up a bit, and now this nerd won't get off my ass. I roamed it up a bit. Oh, man. So he's like, you know, like, I really wanted to go journeying, and I got a bunch of my friends together, and we all got a boat, and so he says, both of the shores I saw as far as Spain, far as Morocco and the Isle of Sardis, and the others which that sea bathes round about. So he's naming all the places they saw from their boat. I and my company were old and slow when at that narrow passage we arrived, where Hercules his landmarks set as signals, that man no farther onward should adventure. On the right hand behind me left I Seville, and on the other already had left, Ceuta? I hate trying to say names that I've only read before. I'm terrible at pronouncing them. O brothers, who amid 100,000 perils, I said, have come unto the west, so, to this so inconsiderable vigil, which is remaining of your senses still, be ye willing to deny the knowledge following the sun of the unpeopled world. Consider ye the seed from which ye sprang, ye were not made to live like unto brutes, but for pursuit of virtue and of knowledge. So eager did I render my companions with this brief exhortation for the voyage, that then hardly I could have held them back. So they got to, like, the edge of, like, you know, where things had been discovered, and is like, you know, don't go any further than this. And he's like, come on, guys, I want to know stuff. Don't you want to go and know stuff? Or do you want to be an ignorant animal? Come on, we got to go look at the stuff. We got to go explore and stuff, you know? Stuff. And then his friends were like, hey, okay, you talked us into it. Let's go exploring. It may be dangerous this way, but let's go. So, and having turned our stern unto the morning, we of the oars made wings for our mad flight, evermore gaining on the larboard side. Already all the stars of the other pole the night beheld, and ours so very low it did not rise above the ocean floor.
5 times rekindled, and as many quenched had been the splendor underneath the moon since we had entered into the deep pass, when there appeared to us a mountain dim from distance, and it seemed to me so high as never any one beheld. Joyful we were, and soon it turned to weeping, for out of the new land a whirlwind rose, and smote upon the forepart of the ship. 3 times it made her whirl with all the waters, and at the 4th time it made the stern a lift, and the prow downward go, as pleased another, until the sea above us closed again. So, here Dante, what happened was, Virgil is like, how did you guys die? You know? Dante kind of writes a sort of like non-canon addition, you know, onto Ulysses' life. He basically says, like, well, this is how Ulysses died, you know? He writes this story about how he was like, hey guys, you know, I want to go exploring. I'm tired of living at home and being happy and all that other junk. And that, you know, and we went sailing and everything, and then we saw this, like, you know, we saw this mountain on an island or something, and then this big storm came up, and it sank our ship, and that's how I died. He's just pulling stuff out of his ass. So now we go on to Canto 27. Already was the flame erect and quiet to speak no more. So Ulysses like, and that's how it happened, I'm not telling you anymore. And now departed from us with the permission of the gentle poet. To be fair, Ulysses was a douche lord too. Yeah, he really was. When yet another, which behind it came, caused us to turn our eyes upon its top by a confused sound that issued from it, as the Sicilian bull that bellowed first with the lament of him that was right, who with his file had modulated it, bellowed so with the voice of the afflicted that notwithstanding it was made of brass, still it appeared in agony transfixed. Thus, by not having any way or issue at first from out the fire, to its own language converted were the melancholy words. So, this is not the other part of the flame that they're talking to, the Ulysses and Diomedes. That flame has gone away. Ulysses is like, we're not talking to you anymore, bye. And so then this other flame, like a smaller flame, kind of pops up, and it makes this terrible noise, like, brah, and he's just like, we discovered America, but we came so early that God smote us. So he bellows, and he what's the word? Compares. I'm trying to say converts. He compares it to the sound of the Sicilian bull, or the brazen bull. You know the torture where they had a bull made of brass, and they would put somebody inside it. It was hollow, and close up the lid, and then build a fire underneath it. And as the person inside shrieked with pain as the thing got hotter and hotter and roasted him, the mouth of the bull had like a modulated, like, kind of horn inside of it, so it would sound like a bull bellowing, like, you know. It was pretty scary, you know? It was, like, really scary. And he's like, it kind of reminded me of that. Because, like, you know, the bull just looks like brass, and even though it's obviously not in agony, it's just a statue, but it's making this terrible sound. I saw this little flame that, you know, it's just a little flame, but it's making this strange sound. And then it started, you know, but then it started to talk. And he's like, but afterwards, and they had gathered way up through the point, giving it that vibration the tongue had given them in their passage out, we heard it said, O thou at whom I am my voice, and who but now was speaking Lombard, saying, now go thy way, no more I urge thee, because I came perchance a little late to stay and speak with me, let it not irk thee. Thou seest it irks not me, and I am burning. So he's like, hey, I heard an Italian talking, you know, like or not an Italian. Yeah, I think, yeah. So he's because he's Lombard. Yeah, he's like, I heard a guy in my language speaking. And he's just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And so, can I talk to you? I know that you were talking to some other guys and everything. Like, is it okay if we talk? Is it okay if we talk? And, so he's just like, you see, it doesn't bother me, and I'm on fire, so it shouldn't bother you either. Basically. Jesus, Dante's a freaking bloodhound for sniffing out Italian. Yeah, seriously. If thou but lately into this blind world hast fallen down from that sweet Latian land, wherefrom I bring the whole of my transgression. He thinks that Dante is another fallen spirit, so he's like, are you new here? He clearly, like, I guess maybe since he's a flame he doesn't have eyes anymore, he can only hear his voice. So he thinks that he's talking to another flame. Say if the Romanuls have peace or war, for I was from the mountains there, between Urbino and the yoke whence Tiber bursts. So he's, still when I was downward bent and listening, when my conductor touched me on the side, saying, speak thou, this one elation is. And he's just like, hey, can you tell me what's going on up on the, are you new here? Do you have any news of the world up there, about my native city, Romagna? And then, if you have any news of that, please let me know. And then Virgil taps him on the shoulder. He's like, you can talk to this guy. He's Italian, so, he'll understand you. And it's just like, yes, I know, Virgil. I'm talking to him right now. He doesn't sass Virgil, but it's like, Virgil, thank you. I can tell. He just said that he's from Italy. Don't treat me like a child, Virgil! And I, who had beforehand my reply in readiness, he's like, I was already getting ready to answer. Forthwith began to speak. O soul that down here below art concealed, Romagna thine is not and never has been without war in the bosom of its tyrants, but open war I none have left there now. So he's like, that place is never not in trouble. It's run by time. Oh my god. Hang on. I'm kind of choking. Ugh. Sorry, I was talking while eating. I shouldn't do that. I do not wish to aspirate pepperoni into my lungs. But he's like, that place is never without war. It's always run by tyrants. He's Italian, you get me? He's like, yes, Virgil, I get it. I was just about to talk to him. Thank you, Virgil. You don't have to hold my hand for everything. Just when we're alone. and so he's just like, yeah, I know that place. It sucks. It's always never without war. It's run by tyrants. And Ravenna stands, he's like, but open war I none have left there now. He's like, it's not openly at war right now. Not openly, it's just, there's always tension up there. Ravenna stands as its long years has stood. The eagle of Polenta there is brooding, so that she covers Servia with her vans. The city which once made the long resistance, and of the French a sanguinary heap, beneath the green paws finds itself again. So he's telling him what's been going on up there, and he's just like, man, you remember when you trounced the French? Well, now you're kind of under their heel again. Verruccio's ancient mastiff and the new, who made such bad disposal of Montaigne, where they are wont to make wimbles of their teeth. The cities of Limone and Saterno governs the line cell of the white lair, who changes sides twixt summertime and winter, and that of which the Savio bathes the flank, even as it lies between the plain and the mountain, lives between tyranny and a free state. He's like, stuff's just effed up where you used to live, okay? It's all back and forth, and people are getting conquered, and then they're conquering other people, and then they're getting conquered again, and then the French are coming in, and then these other guys are coming in, and it's just nuts, and it just constantly waffles between being a free state and an oppressed one, and then a free state again, and then ruled by tyrants, and then not. It's just, it's a mess, dude. It's a mess. Now oh wait, hang on, I need a cup to submerge these brushes before they harden. Sorry. Somber music for the state of Romagna. Now I entreat thee, tell us who thou art, be not more stubborn than the rest have been, so may thy name hold front there in the world. So he's like, so who are you? And don't try and deny us, who you are. Just tell us who you are, and I'll, make your name known up in the world. Don't be stubborn like everybody else. After the fire a little more had roared in its own fashion, the sharp point it moved this way and that, then gave forth such breath. If I believe that my reply were made to one who to the world would ever return, this flame without more flickering would stand still. But inasmuch as never from this depth did anyone return, if I hear true without the fear of infamy, I answer. I was once a man of arms, then courtier.
believing thus begirt to make amends, and truly my belief had been fulfilled, but for the high priest who may ill betide, who put me back into my former sins, and how and wherefore I will have thee here. So he's like, okay, like, just tell us who you are, and I'll bring, word of you back up to the living world. And he was like, if I actually thought you could do that, I wouldn't tell you who I was, because I'm kind of ashamed of myself. But I'm pretty sure you're never getting out of hell alive, because nobody ever does. And I'm not aware that you're oh-so-special Dante, who does things that nobody else does. He does that a lot in Purgatorio, too. He's just like, I'm the first man to ever do this. How humble am I in being the most wonderful? Ugh. You're the youngest seeker in a century. Look at you. You're so special at everything. He really is like kind of a Mary Sue. But he's like, but since I'm pretty sure you are never getting back up to the living world because nobody ever does, I'll tell you who I am because I'm pretty sure that you won't tell anybody. So, oh, hang on. Let me get my water out of here. Get in there. So, he was a man of arms, and he was a fighter, and, he wanted to make up for that by joining the priesthood. So he became a friar. And, he's just like, I'm done with warring, I'm done with violence, I'm going to make up for that, and I'm going to join the church. And so he did. And, and he was pretty okay with that, and that sort of thing. But for the high priest who may ill betide, who put me back into my former sins, and how and wherefore I will have thee here, he's like, but the Pope, got me back into trouble, and I'll tell you how. While I was still the form of bone and pulp my mother gave to me, the deed I did were not those of a lion, but a fox. And he's like, while I was still alive, I did a lot of bad things, and I wasn't proud of them. I wasn't like a fighter who was proud like a lion. I was a shifty fox, The machinations and the covert ways, I knew them all and practiced so their craft that to the ends of earth the sound went forth. He's like, everybody knew me as a total skunk. When now unto that portion of mine age I saw myself arrived, when each one ought to lower the sails and coil away the ropes. He's like, but when I got older, that which before had pleased me then displeased me, and penitent and confessing I surrendered. Oh, woe is me, it would have bestead me, the leader of the modern Pharisees, having a war near unto Lateran, and not with Saracens nor with the Jews, for each one of his enemies was Christian, and none of them had been to conquer Acre, nor merchandising in the Sultan's land, nor oh, Jesus Christ! He's like, so when I got older, I was like, wow, I've done a lot of bad things, and I would like to repent and be a better person, and I would like to join the church. For each one having his enemies was Christian, and none of them had been to conquer Acre, nor merchandising in the Sultan's land, nor the high office, nor the sacred orders in him regarded, nor in me that cord which used to make those girt with it more meager. But even as Constantine sought out Sylvester to cure his leprosy within Soracte, so this one sought me out as an adept, to cure him of the fever of his pride. Counsel he asked of me, and I was silent, because his words appeared inebriate. And then he said, be not thy heart afraid, henceforth I thee absolve, and thou instruct me how to raise Palestrina to the ground. So here's the thing. Once again, Pope Boniface, the guy that Dante really hates, that guy he was yelling at, who was head down in a hole with his feet on fire a couple of rings back. This guy went to this sad flame of a man who was trying to change his ways and enter, the friarship and become like a peaceful man of the church. He was having some political trouble, and he turned to him and said, hey, I know you used to be, you were you did all sorts of skunky things. You were an arms dealer, you worked in the war, you did some bad things. I want your counsel. I want you to tell me what I should do to, as he says, how to raise Palestrina to the ground. How do I burn my enemies to the ground? He's like, advise me on how to do terrible warlike things to get rid of my enemies, which is not something the Pope should be saying. But Boniface is like, as Dante says, the most corrupt Pope friggin' ever, except for the guy who came after him. But so he's like, yeah, tell me how to get rid of my enemies, permanently, dude.
And this guy was like, look, I don't do that stuff anymore. I'm in the church now. I'm trying to go on the straight and narrow here. I don't want to do that. And Boniface says, no, don't worry about it. I'm Pope. You know, I'm Pope. I can absolve you of all of your sins. This isn't even a sin that you're doing right now, because if you feel bad about it, all I have to do is absolve you and I can wipe it all away. And heaven have I the power to lock and to unlock, and thou dost know, therefore the keys are two, the which my predecessor held not dear. So he's like, I'm the Pope. I literally hold the keys to the kingdom. That's the whole point of the Pope, is he holds the key. That's why the Pope's symbol, like the keys of St. Peter, he has keys. When you see on like the Pope's crest and everything, there are the keys that are crossed. They are literally the keys to the kingdom. And, you know, and in the Bible it said that Jesus was like, okay, Peter, you're going to be the first head of, like, you know, the church and everything. And as you do down here, so above will I hold in heaven. And it's basically, you know, as whoever you say should get into heaven, you know, that you unlock the door for, I will let them in. But Dante is clearly saying here that that's not true, because a corrupt pope would just let anybody in, and God wouldn't stand for that. I mean, it may be that he only said that to Peter because he trusted Peter implicitly. He's like, I know Peter will make the right choice and let, you know, in only the people who should be let into heaven. But Dante is here saying that just because you get absolved by the Pope and he says, okay, you're totally going to heaven, that doesn't make it true, especially if he's a corrupt Pope. So if he says that, God may just say, no, sorry, no, that person is terrible, and you know, he doesn't get into heaven. And the Pope can say, like, yeah, but you said as above, you know, as below, so above, or whatever, like that. You do whatever. You'd let in whoever I let in. And Dante's saying that, no, God will be like, no, I'm sorry. You are corrupt. You're a corrupt Pope, and you're letting in bad people, and no, they don't go to heaven. So Dante is going against what a lot of people believed at the time, was that the Pope can just absolve you. The Pope can just say. They said it in the Crusades. They were like, you know, like, oh, if you go to the Holy Lands and kill a bunch of people to bring back the true cross and reclaim the Holy Lands for us, you're absolved of anybody that you kill. If you happen to kill anybody on the way who are heathens or whatever, it's fine. You're absolved. You get a free pass. You get a get out of jail free, you know, get out of hell free card from the Pope, because he can absolve you of your sins, because he holds the keys to the kingdom. And Dante is here saying, no, he doesn't. If he's a corrupt Pope, then, you know, God is not going to put up with corrupt people just letting anybody in. No, he's not. Like, it's ultimately up to God who gets in. It's not up to the Pope. Especially if the Pope is as flipping corrupt as Boniface. So, heaven I have the power to lock and unlock, is what he says. Then urged me on his weighty arguments there, where my silence was the worst advice, and said I, Father, since thou washest me of that sin into which I must now fall, the promise long with the fulfillment short will make thee triumph in thy lofty seat. So he's just like, look, the worst thing you can do right now to me, I'm the Pope, the worst thing you can do is to stay silent. Just give me advice on this. So he's like, all right, fine. Since you're going to absolve me of this sin, I will advise you on how to stomp your enemies into the ground. Literally. Francis came afterward when I was dead for me, but one of the black cherubim said unto him, take him not, do me no wrong. He must come down among my servitors, because he gave the fraudulent advice, from which time forth I have been at his hair. For who repents not cannot be absolved, nor can one both repent and will at once, because of the contradiction which consents not. So he's like, when I died, St. Francis came down to take my soul to heaven, but a devil came hold of me and said, no, you can't have him. He doesn't belong with you. He's ours. Because he gave, like fraudulent, terrible advice. He advised a pope to do wrong, which is fraudulent, which you should not do. It's not like fraudulent like he gave him the advice knowing he was going to accidentally do the wrong thing. He just gave, he gave him the advice to act in an unpope-like manner. And he's like, from which time forth, I've been grabbing him by the hair. He's mine now. Ever since he made that sin, I've been on him. For who repents not cannot be absolved, nor can one both repent and will at once. He's like, this guy didn't say he was sorry for what he did. He just did it and said, it doesn't matter, I'm going to be absolved. And he's like, and you can't repent and do something at the same time. He's like, you can't be like, oh, I repent what I'm doing right now. You're like, you're still doing it. You're still doing it, you ass. Like, you can't say, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do, because you're still gonna do it. The only time you can repent is if you've done something and be like, I shouldn't have done that. That was terrible. And you didn't do that. You kept thinking, it's okay for me to have done that because I got absolved by the Pope and I'm going to go to heaven anyways. And so St. Francis was like, hey, you're right. So go ahead, devil, take him away. He's yours. Oh, miserable me, how I did shudder when he seized on me, saying, peradventure thou didst not think that I was a logician. So he's like, oh my god, I felt terrible when that devil grabbed him and was like, haha, the devil's in the details. He's like, I bet you didn't know I was really good at arguing logic. I'm really good at logic and stuff. Come on, let's go to hell. He bore me unto Minos, who entwined 8 times his tail about his stubborn back, and after he had bitten it in a great rage, said, of the thievish fire a culprit this. So Minos, when he was judging him, that guy with the snake tail, was like, I am so mad at you, I am biting my own tail. Wherefore here... where thou seest I am lost, and vested thus in going I bemoan thee. So he's like, so I got cast down to this circle, and here I stay, and now you can see how miserable I am. When it had thus completed its recital, the flame departed, uttering lamentations, writhing and flapping its sharp-pointed horn. So the flame just kind of took off like, oh man, it sucks, I hate being down here, oh, I'm so unhappy, I'm a little flame. Onward we passed, both I and my conductor, up over the crag above another arch, which the moat covers, where is paid the fee by those who sowing discord win their burden. So, this last, this second to last ring is for the sowers of discord. It's, and not the Discord where we post stupid memes. It's the sowers of discord are, like, people who, share, like, rumors and fake gossip, and just they basically just, hey, like, did you hear Becky might be pregnant with, like, Josh's kid? Josh, but he's dating Janet. Yeah, blah 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 blah. And then it turns out no, she wasn't even pregnant, and anyways you shouldn't have been telling anybody that. And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna break up their friendship because I'm such a jerk. It's like, the sowers of discord are they divide people in two by their lies and their rumors and their gossip. They do it on purpose to drive wedges between people and countries and that sort of thing. So they drive people apart with their fraud. Canto 28. Whoever could, even with untremelled words, tell of the blood and of the wounds in full, which now I saw by many times narrating. Did we talk about... It's like, did we talk about the flames and how they're being punished? So in the last one, when, all the flames were, like, everybody was, like, hidden in flames and everything... They gave bad or evil counsel, especially to religious people. So they misuse God's gifts. And they worked in they will spend eternity hidden from the world because you can't see their souls, and burning because they have a guilty conscience for that. You see, so it's like a manifestation of their conscience. So let's go to the next canto here. This mouse, I swear, I gotta replace this mouse. Do laser mouses just stop working after like a year? I don't know. This one's kind of a junk one that just came with the computer. And, like, it'll click on things, but sometimes it won't. I'll have to click, like, a bunch of times. I don't know. So that's what they did. So this next one is the sowing of discord. Let's see here. Each tongue would for a certainty fall short by reason of our speech and memory that have small room to comprehend so much. If I were again assembled all the people which formerly upon the fateful land of Puglia were lamenting for their blood shed by the Romans and the lingering war that of the rings made such illustrious spoils as Livy has recorded, who errs not. Oh my god, these extended similes. With those who felt the agony of blows by making counterstand to Robert Guiscard, and all the rest whose bones are gathered still at Caperano. Ugh, I can't even try anymore. Where a renegade was each Apulian, and at Tagliacoso, where without arms the old Alardo conquered, and one his limb transpierced and one lopped off, should show it would be nothing to compare with the disgusting mode of the ninth Bolgia. So he goes on to this, like, he's like, I don't know how to explain this to you, because the ninth circle inside the Malbolge is so messed up. And he's just like, think about, like, he's like, it's really bloody and grotesque. Think about all these other things that you may have heard of that, like, were also bloody and grotesque.
It's like that, but way, way worse. And Dante does this a lot, where he calls to mind things that people may already be familiar with, like mythological stories or places in the regions in Italy where he's been, and be like, yeah, you know that place or that story? It's like that, but more. I don't know how to explain, goes on to explain. He doesn't really even explain. He basically is just like, it's kind of like if you invented a superhero, and you're like, what's your superhero like? Well, okay, you know Batman? He's like that, but way more. Way more what? Just way more Batman. He's actually, he kind of relies on, like, all the heavy lifting for his descriptions by alluding to other things, which if you're not familiar with it, doesn't really work. I'm howling at the moon, sleeping in the middle of a summer afternoon. Discord! What did we do to make... 20 pounds of Batman. He's like 20 pounds of Batman in a 10-pound Batman suit. It's like... Yeah, he basically was like that, where he just kind of depends on... It's just like, man, these people had such an epic romance. How epic was it? Well, think about Romeo and Juliet. It's like that, but more. I really feel that Dante is kind of like a weak poet here, because instead of using his words to describe, you know, some of these things or build up tension, he's basically just calls upon many other things you may be familiar with, which breaks down if you're not familiar with those things. It becomes a kind of stupid exercise. But he assumes that these things are universal and that you will understand them. And that kind of drives me nuts. Sorry, soak in my brush again. Soak in my brush again! Soak in the brush here, boss. Okay, is this thing hot now? I don't want to touch it if it's hot. Oh, it's turned on. I turned it on ages ago to let it heat up, but it's not plugged in. I'm the best, and I'm the greatest at everything. Oh, I'm not owned. Joke's on you. I love to get owned. Don't lick my foot, Mang. I'm an idiot. Okay, so I'll have to do that after it heats up. I'm so stupid. Hey, brother. What? What? Cat's making weird noises at me. Okay. Dante, derivative, clutches pearls. So, Tristan and Isolde. Yeah, it's just like... He just kind of... He works to derive all of his most epic descriptions of things by just comparing them to other things which you might already know and being like, that but more. That but more is kind of like his reoccurring theme, and it's just... You know, he has a lot more loving descriptions of Virgil than he does about anything else. He's like, I could go on about Virgil forever. Oh, this other thing that I have to describe? Yeah, it was horrible. Think of a horrible thing, it's worse than that. Aw, me. Me, you got asthma cough. Aww. Sorry, I have to pet my cat while she coughs. It upsets her otherwise. Hey, you got asthma cough, boo? I'm sorry. Poor little kitty coughing. You okay? You okay? Yeah, you're okay. I pet your face. I pet your face. Aw. Kitty. Poor kitty. She's got this like asthma-like cough where she's like... And I don't know if she's like... Sometimes I don't know if it's asthma or a hairball. You okay? But it upsets me to see her like that. The dog's naked. Lynx took off her collar to brush out her mane. Oh no, naked dog! Get off of here. This is a PG-13 trip through hell, Caddis. Anyways, so he's like, yeah, all those terrible things, it's more terrible than that. Remember, like, that story, that famous story where that guy got his arm ripped off? This is worse than that, and it's super gross down here, so, like, steel yourself. A cask by losing centerpiece or cant was never shattered so as I saw one rent from the chin to where one breaketh wind. So, one guy was sliced open from his chin to his butt. Between his legs were hanging down his entrails. His heart was visible, and the dismal sack that maketh excrement of what is eaten. So, like, his heart and his stomach and his intestines are, like, hanging out. While I was all absorbed in seeing him, he looked at me and opened with his hands his bosom, saying, See now how I rend me, how mutilated is Mahomet. In front of me doth Ali weeping go, cleft in the face from forelock unto chin. So he, like, opens up his chest, he's like, look at this! With black bar over Luna's neck. Thank you, Caddis. Thank you.
And all the others whom there thou here beholdest, disseminators of scandal and of schism. Schism. That word I have no right not knowing the pronunciation of, and yet I don't. Crudite. Crudites. A devil is behind here who doth cleave us thus cruelly until a falcon's edge, putting again each one all of this ream, when we have gone around the doleful road by reason that our wounds are closed again, ere anyone in front of him repass. So he's like, oh hey, it's the dude from that art where Dante is like, wow, no. Yeah, it's that guy. He's like, yeah, so in this circle, we like a devil with like a sword, like chops us open, and then we're made to walk around the circle, of this trench, and as we come around, we heal again, and then he hits us again, and then we have to walk around again. And he says his name. He says his name is Muhammad, and that his son-in-law Ali is in the same condition, and that everybody else down here is also crappy. And so, and as they go around the chasm, their wounds heal, but then when they come back, it's the devil with the sword cuts him again. So, it's kind of a stretch here. So, Dante puts the blame on Muhammad as one of the people, the evil people responsible for the division between Christianity and Islam. And he blames his son-in-law as well. And he splits them open in such a way because he feels like they have split the church in two. And he's, and he it's kind of a stretch for him to put him in here, I think. But he's like, you split the church apart and created all this division and argument between Islam and Christianity. You bad. And so now you will be split in half, just in that fashion. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? But who art thou? Okay, and of course they ask who he is again. It's like the 100th person who's asked him who he is. That musest on the crag, perchance to postpone going to the pain that is adjudged upon thine accusations. So he's like, so who are you just hanging out on the side over there? Are you just trying to put off being cut in half by this devil? Nor death hath reached him yet, nor guilt doth bring him, my master made reply, to be tormented, but to procure him full experience. Me, who am dead, behooves it to conduct him down here through hell from circle unto circle, and this is true as that I speak to thee. So he's like, no, he's not dead. He's just here to check out hell and see what's going on. I'm dead, but I'm from a higher circle, and I'm just here to, be a tour guide. Yeah, because it's definitely his fault. Yeah, pretty much. So let's see here. More than 100 were there when they heard him, who in the moat stood still to look at me through wonder, oblivious of their torture. So everybody kind of turns around. They're like, whoa, you don't belong down here and you're still alive? Now say to Fra Dolcino. That's Dolcino, I think. Now say to Fra Dolcino, then, to arm him thou, who perhaps wilt shortly see the sun, if soon he wish not here to follow me. So with provisions that no stress of snow may give the victory to the Novarise, which otherwise to gain would not be easy. So he's just like, yeah, okay, fine. And, it's just more name-dropping, more allegories about this, up on, the places where he used to live, blah, blah, blah. After 1 foot to go away, he lifted, this word did Muhammad say unto me, then to depart upon the ground he stretched it. So he said that as he was, walking away, and then he just kept going. Another one who had his throat pierced through, another, and nose cut off close underneath the brows, and had no longer but a single ear, staying to look in wonder with the others before the others did his gullet open, which outwardly was red in every part. So this guy had his, throat cut open, and he was missing an ear, and he had his entire nose, cut off, way, right almost underneath his eyebrows, all the way up to the bridge, and said, O thou whom guilt doth not condemn, and whom I once saw up in Latian land, unless too great similitude deceive me. He's like, oh, hey, you, who's not here because he's guilty, and also I think I saw you up in life once, if I'm not mistaken. Call to remembrance Pierre de Medicina, and if ever thou see again the lovely plain that from Vercelli slopes to Mercavo, and make it known to the best Tuafano, to Messer Guido and Angiolello, likewise, that if foreseeing here be not in vain, cast over from their vessels shall they be, and drowned near unto the Catalica by the betrayal of a tyrant fell. So he's like, hey, if you get back up, can you tell these other guys that, I have a prophecy for them that they're gonna die when they're, shoved off a boat.
You know, he's kind of like giving warning. And so he's like, yeah, tell those guys I just listed that, like, you know, I'm afraid that, you know, you need to go warn your friend, you know. So let's see here. Cast over their vessel shall they be? Yeah. Between the Isles of Cyprus and Majorca. Neptune never yet beheld so great a crime, neither of pirates nor Argolic people. So he's like, yeah, it's really gonna suck. That traitor who sees only with one eye and holds the land, which someone here with me would fain be fasting from the vision of, will make them come into a parley with him, then will do so, that to Ficarra's wind that they will not stand in need of vow or prayer. He's doing more predictions that already happened to people. And I to him, show to me and declare, if thou wouldst have me bear up news of thee, who is this person of the bitter vision? He's like, if you want me to say all this stuff to them, tell me who you are. Then did he lay his hand upon the jaw of one of his companions, and his mouth opened, and crying, this is he, and he speaks not. Oh, I'm sorry, he's not saying, who are you? He's saying, who's the guy next to you? This one being banished, every doubt submerged in Caesar by affirming the forearmed, always with detriment allowed delay. Oh, how bewildered unto me appeared, with tongue asunder in his windpipe slit, Curio, who in speaking was so bold. So this guy is named Curio, and he can't speak because his tongue is cut out. And he gave the evil counsel to Caesar to cross the Rubicon, thus starting a war. So Dante blames him for that, and he is just like, you started a war because of what you said. You sowed discord, you know? And one who both his hands dissevered had, the stumps uplifting through the murky air so that the blood made horrible his face, cried out, thou shalt remember Mosca also, who said, alas, a thing done has an end, which was an ill seed for the Tuscan people, and death unto their race thereto I added, whence he, accumulating woe on woe, departed like a person crazed and sad. He's like, so this guy Mosca is like, hey, I want to be remembered on Earth too. I want to be remembered on Earth too. And he's like, yeah, I can you remember me? You know, I was kind of an ill seed to the Tuscan people. He's like, and Dante's just like, I wish death on your race. He's like, I call for death on your people. I hope they all die. I hope your family dies. And he just kind of like runs off like a madman, like, yeah, runs away. And came back to Caesar. What did I miss? It was Dante blaming Curio for giving counsel to Caesar to cross the Rubicon and thus start a war. And, you know, because, you know, it's his fault, not Caesar's. He's like, you told Caesar to do this and it started a war. You're the worst. And, you know, I'm going to remember you up there and tell everybody about that. And this guy ran by. He's like, my name's Mosca. Can you tell everybody about me too? And he's like, I know you. I hope your whole family dies. And he's like, no! And just kind of runs away like crazy. Prophecy, basically. Sounds fair. I love it. Thou shalt remember Mosca also. And he's just like, oh, death unto your race. Oh. But I remained to look upon the crowd and saw a thing which I should be afraid without some further proof to even recount. He's like, then I saw something so crazy that I'd really want to have proof to tell you about it, because you won't believe it. If it were not that conscience reassures me that good companion which emboldens man beneath the hauberk of its feeling pure. He's like, but you know what, you'll totally believe me. I'm a good guy. I feel good about that. I don't feel like you think I was a liar. I truly saw, and still I seem to see it, a trunk without a head walk in like manner as walked the others of the mournful herd. He's like, some headless dude was walking around like he was fine. And by the hair it held the head dissevered, hung from the hand in the fashion of a lantern that gazed upon us and said, oh me. And he's like, and this guy was just carrying his head around in front of him by the hair like it was a lantern, just kind of looking at us with it. It of itself made to itself a lamp, and they were 2 in 1 and 1 in 2. How can that be? He knows who so ordains it. He's like, I don't even know how this is possible, but I'm sure God knows. God only knows. Literally, God only knows how this works. When it came close to the bridge's foot, it lifted high its arm with all the head to bring more closely unto us its words, which were, behold now the sore penalty, thou, who dost breathing go the dead beholding. Behold, if any be as great as this. He's like, hey, you, who's been, like, on a tour of heck. I bet you haven't seen anything as bad as this. You haven't seen anything as bad as this. And I'm like, dude, I've seen worse. Come on. All you did was get your head cut off.
And you can still talk through it. Come on, man. I've seen worse. I've seen people blowing in blood. Whatever. You know, he's like, no, I bet you haven't seen anything this bad. And so that thou may carry news of me, know that Bertram de Born am I, the same who gave the young king the evil comfort. I made the father and the son rebellious. Achitophel, not more with Absalom, and David did with his accursed goadings. Because I parted persons so united, parted now do I bear my brain. Alas, from its beginning, which is in this trunk. Thus is observed in me the counterpoise. So, he's like, my name is Bertrand, and I set a young king to mutiny against his own father. And because I broke, you know, the one that is between father and son, I am, you know, I split them in two. And so now I'm split in two. I mean, a head and a body. And thus is observed in me the counterpoise. So he's like, and thus you can see my very ironic punishment. Just like everything else. And by the way, the reason that Dante yelled at the other people and was like, I hope your whole family dies, is because it's like kind of like roundabout that guy's whole feud and things that he caused eventually resulted, like a cascade, resulted in Dante's exile. That's why he's yelling at him. That's why he's like, I don't even want to tell anybody your name. I hope your whole family dies. And he's like, no, and runs away like crazy. It's almost too ironic. Yeah, it's, and so he actually, like, you know, he doesn't actually, like, get all gory with Bertrand here, even though he's supposed to be, like, really bad. Like, really, really bad. He's, you know, he's, like, the closest to the inner circle, which makes him, you know, as everybody gets closer to the middle of hell, the worse they are. And he's really close. But Dante, like, you know, he doesn't really talk about him, like, all gory like he did the other people. He saved his goriest for the guy he personally hated the most. Big shock. I know you're all really shocked. Dante's usually so fair, right? He's usually so cool about it. All right, now let's see here. You know what? I'm going to stop there because it's 1 a.m. Oh, Alanis Morissette, ironic, even. I'm going to stop there because it's 1 a.m. and I actually have to leave here in like 7 hours. Ugh, my God. So, I will talk to you guys later, and I guess we will finish up the rest of this. Yeah, I can get some sleep in, and maybe we can do it Saturday night, because Twitch wants to replace Morissette with terrorist, and that's not fair. What? I don't even get what that means. But, anyways, I have to go to sleep. The Final Circle of Hell has a lot of unpacking. Yeah, it really does. We would be here for quite a while. So, I'll tell you online tomorrow night, or on Discord tomorrow, if I have, whether or not I have the time to, stream tomorrow night. Probably, but it depends on when I get some sleep. But I'll try to get some sleep and stream tomorrow at 9. So, I'll let you know on Discord. So, and then, you know, hopefully we will unpack the very, very end. I was hoping this would be the end, but too much, man. Too much history and unpacking and religion and crap like that. Sleep well, and thanks for the stream. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Let me go over here and close my thing. See you guys later. Thank you for joining me on this pizza journey of heck.